Hello everyone, Reggie Time here, and we are going to be doing a few hand reviews today with Sky Poker legend Duesenberg123, legendary Nit, legendary Glassback, legendary min casher of many tournaments, and used to be a very good microstakes cash game player until he stopped being. Basically, he probably still is. He just doesn't bother anymore. He prefers doing other things like playing poker with less than 20 big blinds, which boggles my mind, but whatever floats his boat. So yeah, he's going to join us very soon, and we've got a few hands to go through. Every hand has a point of interest, where I could have done one thing or another, which I'll be looking forward to getting his opinion on. And then maybe there's one or two hands in here that aren't particularly exciting or interesting, but they're notable for other reasons. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy it. And as always, any feedback, comments, questions are welcomed. So we're starting here with the Ace Jack. I mean, we'll just skip through till we get to the actual point of interest, because obviously the Open standard, the C-bet pretty standard, I presume. I mean, it's a wettish board. Maybe we could check some stuff here, but I don't think we should be.
Yeah, it's weird. I get caught up with the sort of the modern way of thinking now. You know, I see this board and my instinct goes, "Oh fuck me, that is a slam dunk c-bet spot." But then at the same time, I kind of pause and go, "Oh well, you know, I watch some of the content from the wizards in the Upswing Lab, you know, who are all playing 500 Zoom, that kind of thing, and spending their lives in Pio Solver and the like." And I'm kind of going, actually, oh yeah, although we've got like one of the strongest hands you're going to have on this kind of board, there's that sense of, oh, is this a board that's actually, you know, pretty reasonable for the button, and we're supposed to sort of check our over pairs and our strong top pairs with a fairly high frequency, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I think that, and my C-bet stat at one point dropped down to like fucking 40-odd%, right, really low, because I was just checking way too often. But what I found was happening was I was just missing lots of value, and then getting in spots where I felt I had to pay off versus people triple barreling because my hand was underrepresented, and I was just like, well, I'm not sure. So now with over pairs, I will tend to check 9 high boards and lower, and then like anything 10 high or higher, I'll probably tend to c-bet with. Otherwise, you just end up, in my opinion, checking too much and just missing too much value in what are still pretty nitty passive games. I don't think you want to be check calling 3 streets with 1 pair very often in microstakes poker still. I'm not sure there's enough players that are out there being super aggressive and creative to make that a better option than just betting for value, then, as you'll see in this, and getting to the river and then deciding, do we bet for value once more or do we allow bluffs? Because if this turn comes in, I think shouldn't change very much. So I just decided to bet again pretty big. Obviously, I don't think he's going anywhere still with stuff like pocket 8s, pocket 9s, worse jacks, flush draws. So I decided there's too much value in betting to just check. I didn't really want to give free cards either. And he calls again. And then we hit very good card on the river in terms of we've probably got the best hand now for almost certain. But do we get paid anymore on a value bet? Or is it now better to check to allow like gut shots, flush draws, maybe some smaller pairs turn themselves into a bluff, as I've seen you do a few times, and as I do quite often? If I got checked to here with pocket 8s, there's a chance I would probably rather bet them to get someone off Jack X, pocket 10s, pocket queens maybe, then I wouldn't trust my showdown value with pocket 8s here if I was on the button, and I'd be tempted to turn them into a bluff. So what are we doing?
Yeah, I'd be with you there. I think I don't know if the ace is a particularly great river if you're the guy on the button, though, for somebody turning a hand like pocket 8s into a bluff, though. Just because, like, are you really? Because I mean, when especially if you bet sizably on the river as the guy on the button, you're sort of you're repping stronger than Jack X.
Yeah, definitely.
When you've already called down you know, sizable bets on flop on flop and turn, and yeah, it doesn't make sort of too much sense. You know, surely sets of, if the guy's flopped a set, you know, if you flopped a set as the button, you're going to be raising either flop or turn to trying to get more value, charge heart draws, that sort of thing more. And so the ace doesn't make sort of too much sense unless they've specifically got ace jack, and that's about it. So basically that's one of the river cards that I'm sort of that I'd be less inclined to turn a hand like pocket ace into a bluff if I was the button. Just as a moot point there.
So would you bet here then, or check it, given that if you don't think, and I agree, I don't think enough players are turning underpairs into bluffs here. I think I do it too often, and I think for the reasons you stated, it doesn't fucking work as much as I'd like it to. So what would you do here? Would you block? Would you go large? Would you check to allow him to bluff?
I think without any sort of reads on the guy in particular.
All we've got is a HUD stats you can see. I don't know anything about him. He's 25-13 over the...
Yeah.
And that sample may not even have been that big because that'll be all the hands I've got on him. At the time, I may have had less. It may have been around that number. I don't know, to be honest.
Yeah. I think I'd be inclined to bet small on this river because, for the aforementioned reasons, I don't think Villain's got like many sets at all unless he's just tragically fucking awful and doesn't like money. I think as well, so basically I'm targeting somewhat crying calls at this stage from other Jack X. Maybe something that wants to get a bit heroic, like 8s, 9s, 10s that hasn't 3-bet pre. But also the final thing is that I think if you bet a small size on the river here, you're kind of under-repping your hand. And I feel that sometimes amongst the microstakes reg population, you're more likely to actually have them suddenly spaz out and try and turn something into a bluff facing a very small size bet because they think it's a sort of a waving the white flag, oh, I'm really weak, I don't know what to do, I'm blocking type move, than if you just check and then they go, oh, well, great, I'll take my showdown here with my 9s or whatever.
Yeah, no, I get
so
that
I think I quite like the small size here, going like
what you just said about people spewing. I've gone for that spot so many times and fucked it up where someone has bet small on the river and you kind of know they're capped, so you put a massive raise in and they just say fuck you and call anyway. So I get that. I was thinking like either 1/3 pot or check. I didn't like a big bet here much, although if we had someone like King Queen of Hearts, we'd probably want a big bet. So or maybe Queen 10 of Hearts. I think there's some hands we probably want a big bet too. So I just got confused. And checking.
I think hearts. If I had hearts, those kind of hands you just said, I think I'm probably giving up river, because I'm not a massive fan of triple barreling flush draws when you've miscome the river because so many of the hands you want your opponent to have are 2 heart hands. And you block the shit out of them, don't you?
Yeah, I completely agree. The only reason I would do that on this river especially is just because the ace has come and I think it gives us some fold equity against like his Jack X and worse. I wouldn't do if this wasn't an ace on the river, I wouldn't triple barrel hearts ever because you want them to have the hearts, to try and get them to fold them. But I think on this exact river, if I had something like King 10 Queen, King Queen of Hearts, something like that, I'd probably the temptation would be too much and I probably would go for it. So anyway, we checked. He then bets that. I think we can't raise, can we? I don't think it's just a call, isn't it? Or can we jam?
Well, I think you probably can, to be honest with you. Because, like I say, I mean, as played, how often do we really think he's got sets? Pretty fucking unlikely, I think. When you've got a villain who's barreling on a double flush board come the turn in particular. I think anyone who's got like half a poker brain is going to be even more inclined to sort of bump it up with sets there. It's unlikely he's going to have top set either because you block that with the jacks. He might be 3-betting jacks with a high frequency, with a reasonably high frequency. So what better does he have? No draws have come in. I quite like coming over the top here. Really.
Yeah, I think this is where this might be apparent in a couple of hands in this video, maybe more than a couple. Whereas I was very confident I had the best hand. I just couldn't bring myself to raise under the premise of how often do we get called by worse? And that's if he has a
Yeah.
hand like King Jack here, which I don't think he has, but I just like maybe I just don't know what worst two pairs he can show up with here very often. Maybe something like Ace 7 or possibly once in a while. I kind of like I knew I was good, or I was very confident I was good. I just wasn't
Yeah.
confident enough to jam, thinking I'm gonna, I think when he calls, do we win often enough? That was kind of, and that's not just in this
Yeah.
hand. That's a leak I have very often on rivers where I will just call with very strong hands, not because I'm scared that I'm beat, it's because I'm scared I'm beat when they call a jam, if you will. And it's definitely a leak of mine. I think there's maybe another, at least one or maybe two hands where we get to a river where I think we should probably jam, and I elect not to, purely because, and it's an old cliche. What worse calls? I mean, it's something I typically hate when I see people like
Yeah.
turning down value bets. But I think there's a big difference between just checking back and not wanting to check raise a river. I think there is a little difference there, but maybe I think I still maybe a little too nitty because I just called here. It turns out we would have got some more value. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to call there when we shove. If he's bad, he probably will. If he's good, he probably won't. I'm not sure. I don't even know why he chose that sizing. I think it's ambitious.
Um, possibly. Um, but again, like how much Jack X does the under the gun? Sorry, how much Ace X does the under the gun player have when he gets the river on this
Yeah,
line? Other
true.
than some maybe like Ace X of hearts and Ace X of diamonds. Literally a hand like Ace 5 of diamonds, something like that. That might take that line. So. So no, I basically I don't hate its size. Because say you've got I don't know, say you've got King Jack with the King of Spades here instead. When you're in a world of pain now, if you check here and you face a bet of that size, aren't you?
I'm in a world of pain if I've got queens and kings too. I don't know about you, but I would be loving the spot with aces and kings here. Sorry, with kings and queens here, I'd be pretty sick to be honest.
Yeah, no, likewise, yeah. I wouldn't be loving it because, precisely these kind of hands might be just sort of double floating, calling twice with,
But is that not kind of
with
the
their flush
point of
draws.
why not to go big though? Because if we're going to be folding Jack X, kings and queens to this size, then is big the right size to go? But to get in value from if we're folding Jack X or like kings, queens.
Yeah, but I mean, personally, I'm not folding. I wouldn't be folding any of my strong Jack X that I've double barreled. If I check river, I wouldn't be folding my kings, my queens, because I think there's enough out there that has missed. There's two flush draws have now missed come the river. There's all sorts of backdoor nonsense that is missed.
Oh, good. That
Backdoor
means next
straight draw
time we play
nonsense.
on Sky, when you go bet check, I can just bet massive for value then, can't I? Because I know you're going to be calling me too late. I like that. This is just a
Yeah.
ruse to get inside your head to try and exploit you on the Sky Streets, and it's fucking working beautifully.
Oh no! Well, you see, I'm just going to counter by checking the nuts to you on the river and letting you hang
Fair
yourself.
dues. Right, let's move on to the next one. If hopefully it works, and the next one just comes up. Ah, it does. So
Lovely stuff.
again, I don't remember this hand. Some weird
Quick question
guys
for you.
min raised over a
Just
limp.
while you carry on with this one, Rich.
Okay.
Talk me through your HUD. What are the HUD stats I'm looking at here?
Very, very basic, my HUD. VPIP, PFR, attempt to steal, 3-bet, C-bet flop, C-bet turn, C-bet river, and then one when saw flop, which I think is one of the most underrated stats in all of poker. I adore the one when saw flop stat because it just tells you so much about a player. Once you've got a reasonable samples, over these samples, it's kind of worthless. But if you see
Yeah.
somebody with a one when saw flop of like less than 41, 42, you can just play so nitty against them on the later streets and just exploit them for it because they're just not, you're not the guys you're paying off. I mean, I'm not a particularly aggressive player. My one when saw flop is typically 43, 44. So I use that as my barometer of do I pay this guy off or not. Anyone who's up in the high 40s or 50s, I'll usually be much more willing to call them off. Anyone that's like sub 41, I'm just like, well, no, this guy's just, it's like Conga or whatever on Sky. He's just like super nitty, and I'll kind of overfold versus the guys who have a lower number than me, and I'll tend to call much more often against people that have a higher number than me, because I think I'm maybe just on the tight passive side, especially when it comes to later street betting. So if I know where I'm at with that, then I think it's a useful barometer to help me know when to and to call off. It's a stat I've used for fucking 10 years, the 1 win sort of flop stat. I think it's way better than aggression frequency. It's way better than aggression factor. I just think it's a very useful stat to have, and I don't see many people using it. Whenever I watch people playing on the internet, well, it's not a stat I see people using. But I like it, and I think my C bet.
It's been a staple of my my go-to HUD for years, mate. So you're preaching to the converted here.
I think like over the given I haven't got many hands in on this shit, I think a lot of my stats like C bet turn, C bet river, they're not going to be useful for a long time. But it's just nice to have, if someone's got 100% flop and turn C bet and they've done it 10 times out of 10, it's better than not knowing. I'd rather know that than not know it, even though the sample's still pretty crummy. So no idea why this one's in. Must be some point of interest at some point. So we 3-bet, of course. We get this flop. So I do remember this hand now. So what are we doing on this flop?
So hang on just a moment. Sorry, I'm just catching up. So you're big blind here, was it?
Yeah,
mid position limped and cut off ISO'd.
Yeah, but only to a min raise, which is obviously fucking ridiculous. And then we 3-bet to 9 bigs. He flied.
Yeah. I mean, this is a fucking stinker of a flop for both your range and your hand, isn't it?
Yeah, it's diabolical. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I really don't mind starting this one with a check at all. I'm quite happy check calling her first off with this flop. I know it feels ugly because there's you feel like you want to deny loads of equity to I know, like random one heart hands where he's got a shit heart that you don't want to let get there, but I just feel like this board, given this flow of action, it's just fucking horrific for you. And he can have so many draws here as well that are quite happy to sort of raise your C bet even in the 3-bet pot. I quite like taking a check call line here and proceeding from there.
Yeah, touching on your point of denying equity, I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet about that, because I don't think we do deny equity very often. If someone's got a hand with equity, how often are they really folding it? And I don't just mean on this board, I mean in general. I see people saying that so much these days. And like they'll bet big to deny equity. But if someone's got a genuinely strong draw, you're not denying their equity, because they're going to fucking call you anyway or raise you. I see like lots of people talking about it in various groups and stuff. Like, oh, you need to raise it and deny equity. You're kind of not denying equity. You're just building a bigger pot, and increasing your variance, which I don't mind doing if you think you've got like a decent equity share. But yeah, the deny equity thing. And I think, I agree. If he's in there with, I don't know, say King 8 with a fucking 8 of hearts or something ridiculous like that, you might want to just bet small to, as you say, fold out shitty bits that won't call but might get there. But if anyone's got a seriously, a reasonable or a decent draw, I mean, people in max checks aren't folding good draws. So the concept of denying equity, to me, I look at that differently too. I think a lot of people do. My denying equity is, like you said, just making sure you don't let people get there cheaply with shit they would fold. Not try to make people fold genuine draws, because people just don't fold genuine draws. I honestly don't know what I did here. I could see myself betting and I could see myself checking. I agree with you. I think it's a board we should be checking all day. But who knows what I did in the moment. I did check. He checks back. Turn 3. Would you start betting now?
Yeah, it's time to go to Value Town now, I'd say.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I did bet. And he
did
that.
I like the size.
Now what?
Well, that feels kind of dirty, doesn't it? I still don't think folding is an option just yet.
Oh, that's a problem. That's a problem then, because I think that's what I did. And in spots like this, I'm kind of, if I can call and guarantee a showdown for no more chips, it's a call all day. But I think when people raise the turn here, they think we're going to be facing a river jam. So when I see 351, I don't see that. I see 793 because I think I don't
Yeah.
want to call here and then like after fall brick rivers. If you say the rivers are deuce of clubs, are we just going to check call down there? Are we going to just call turn and hope he gives up? If the line is call and hope for a cheap showdown, I think you're living in dreamland. So for me, he's asking me a question for my entire stacking, and I'm never going to jam, obviously. But if I call,
Yeah.
it's like, well, I'm calling down on all non-hearts. But there's going to be lots of hearts on the river I can't call. There's going to be lots of sixes, lots of nines, lots of jacks. Half the fucking deck's terrible on the river, and I think he's going to jam the river with a very high frequency, which is why I do probably overfold in these spots, not because of this bet, it's because of what's fucking coming next, kind of thing.
No, mate, I certainly get that. I'm probably too far the other way in that I think I don't fold enough in these spots. I can, contrary to what people see when I stream tournaments in these kind of spots in cash games, I think I have a bit too much form for stationing it up too much. But I suppose I also kind of look at, because I'm also looking at the price. I'm thinking, well, I mean, what you can see the odds here. So what I'm immediately going, well, I need to be good about 25% of the time here. Not having the ace of hearts is kind of good as well, because if a villain is now feeling that he wants to turn ace x of hearts into a bluff, because you look seriously under-repped when you check flop in a 3-bet pot. So yeah, I'm probably too bad here, and I think I probably check call and then call the majority of brick rivers.
Problem is there aren't many brick rivers. That's my issue. Because of like, Christ knows, I don't know what I want to see. You want to see like something lower than a 6 that isn't a heart, don't we? Anything else is. I mean, I guess kings and queens are probably relatively safe too. I don't know, but this is a
Yeah.
spot. I think again, I think I probably overfold in this spot, but I also think versus the population, I don't think it's a massive leak. I mean, if I know someone kind of gets a read on me that they think I'm overfolding these spots, and a certain individual starts getting the frequencies way out of line, then obviously I will adjust. If I was doing this against you, for example, on the Sky Streets back in the day, and every time I check flop bet turn, you were firing raises at me, well, then you've got to make a stand at some point. But I
Yeah.
think against a complete unknown, based on 39 hands, and based on what I've seen of this population, which is pretty damn fucking weak and tight post flop, I'm willing to right, fine, whatever. I might be being bluffed here. I'm willing to be bluffed. Let's just move on and just keep
Yeah.
our eye open for that
So
going forward.
in that case, based on population, what you've seen so far, and your sort of low sample size return to 10 and L snap, do you think population as a whole is, let's say you call here and the river is deuce of clubs? Do you think population as a whole is likely going to be bluffing with a decent enough frequency
No,
on
I don't.
rivers with
No,
their
I really don't.
misdraws?
I think if we call here and he jams a deuce of clubs river, I think we're fucked. That's my read on the population. Obviously, there's going to be individuals that outlie that, but I think versus the overall population here, I don't think there's going to be anywhere near enough people value betting worse or bluffing. I think most players would probably, if they had a heart draw, flush draw, they wanted to. I think they just bet the flop versus the check. I don't think they're waiting to raise turns. I don't think they're that creative to be like, right, well, I'm not going to bet this flop, but I am going to raise versus the. I just don't think. I think it's a nice line. Obviously, it's going to work. It's going to get me off aces. But do I think the majority of the 10 that population are doing that? No, I think. I mean, looking around at these stats, it's probably not a good representation of in these two guys is 30-26 and 32-24 because there's a
Yeah.
lot more of these types 18 zeros and 18 12s. Hopefully that'll show out through the rest of the video, but no, I
Yeah.
don't think it's a line that's taken as a bluff with a high enough frequency for us wanting to get heroic for another 80 bigs with aces, but that could be wrong. But you kind of get a feel for these things when you're in game and you see just how passively, even people who look like the decent aggressive regulars, just how passive they are. I just think they're going to be super polar here and heavily weighted towards sets, maybe flop flushes even, who knows what, but just better than Better than one pair. I think if we're always getting our money in here by taking a call Riverline, I think we're losing more than we're winning. I think.
Question: Are you in this spot on this flop? Now this is 10 and L range. We've got to think about being balanced and protecting our range.
Absolutely.
Here. So my question for you is, in this situation, when you've 3-bet or squeezed, I'm not sure what it is when there's a limper in there, but when you 3-bet here at the big blind and you get a flop of monotone flop of 10, 7, 8, do you have strong hands here in your range as well? Basically, are you ever checking your strong hands? Like, I don't know, if you've got ace, queen of hearts and you get this flop, are you ever checking that?
Yes.
Are you ever checking
when in
sets?
3-bet pots, when I see this type of board, I'm checking with an incredibly high frequency. I wouldn't say never, but it's close to never, because I've seen enough things where I heard enough people just saying things like, that is not a good board for our range, so we're just going to check. And I'm not saying I'm doing it correctly all the time, but I think I've got a good sense of, right, this is a good board for me, so I'm going to be aggressive. This is a bad board for me, so I'm going to be passive. And I think I'm good enough for the games I'm in at doing that correctly to be better than, right, I'm going to bet sometimes and check. I think once you start mixing like bets and checks in, it's just too easy to confuse yourself. So a lot of times, just like, that's not my board, I'm going to start checking, and if he checks back, then I'll start betting. But yeah, you know me. We've had loads of conversations. I'm not dead arsed about being super well balanced, but I am asked about trying to play correctly on particular board textures, and I will force myself to check when I'm thinking, just bet to protect your hand, and I'll force myself to bluff sometimes when I'm thinking, fuck me, you're not going to get a fold here often enough. But I'll usually, on flops especially, I'll play the way I think my range wants to play on the board texture, and then I'll probably on the turn, I'll probably start deviating from that depending on what I think I know about my opponent. So against bad players and calling stations, I'll start betting quite big on boards that don't favour me with value, and I'll just give up completely on boards that don't favour me with like my ace kings and things. I just basically concede the pot to people, or just try and get to a cheap showdown. But on flops, I am, and I'm not thinking, I need to be balanced here. I'm just thinking, this isn't a board we want to be betting with a high frequency, so let's just not bet it and see what happens. So that's kind of how I approach them. So anyway, we fold there, and that's the end of that one.
I really don't hate the fold, for what it's worth.
This one, I think there's been a bit of hate for this, because I think there's, we'll see. We open the button, completely standard. This guy, pretty aggressive. Seems like a regular. Seems pretty aggressive. His C-bet stat is out of line. I remember this hand very vividly. I'm not a huge fan of calling versus 3-bets, but I think this hand's just too damn fucking pretty to fold. If he'd made it small, it's a snap call, but he's made it 10 bigs. But I think versus is like, again, small sample size, but he looks like 33.22. Looks like he's 3-betting a reasonable amount of 7.5. We don't know yet because the sample size is worthless. But if we trust the 33.22 somewhere near indicative that he's a loose aggressive player, then we have to assume that his 3-bet stat is going to be, higher than a typical 10 and L reg. So I just want to defend it versus. I'd probably defend this versus most players because it's just so pretty, and there's going to be lots of flops where we can get creative, like the one that's about to come. But in general, I'm not that fond of calling 3-bets in these games because I just don't think people are 3-betting anywhere near wide enough. From what I could see yesterday, I looked at the entire population just based on a small sample, and the population stats are running something like 24-13 with a 4% 3-bet. So if that's what we think the field are doing, then I think we can probably pull it up. Let's have a look, see if we can pull it up a minute. If we go to opponents list. So we look at we haven't played 16,000 hands, but this obviously combines everyone. So it's 25, 14, 5.7. It's gone up a little bit since yesterday, but they're still pretty neaty stats. A less than 6% 3-bet is not particularly aggressive these days. As the pool in general seemed to be kind of weak tight as I would expect them to be.
Interesting, actually, just as a point of comparison, because I mentioned to you on the back of some tickets. I ended up, I'd like, I didn't have any money in my PokerStars account, but got some free tickets and ended up like essentially bubbling, but getting a few pounds out of a satellite. I used one of my tickets for, so I had £8 in my account, and I've been sort of jumping in the 2-0 Zoom pool, trying to lose it. Still haven't managed to lose it, but it hasn't grown very much either. But it was just interesting seeing you look at those stats because I love all of that shit as well. And I was looking at that the other day for 2-0 Zoom, what I played on there this year, which is I think I might have logged like 8,000 hands now, something like that. And the 2-L pool is 3-betting between 7 and 8%, which is quite interesting. Just comparing sort of
it's a tough school for 2-L, isn't it? It's a very tough school for 2-L.
Yeah. It's like like the whole population stats is something like 24-16 with a 7-point-something% 3-bet, which is like, whoa, fucking hell, this is 2-L. What's going on?
And compare that to this. That's a tougher game. It's 2-L Zoom is a tougher game than 10-L Snap based on my, albeit small sample size. But I expect this to bear out when that number's up to 500,000. I expect this to still be somewhere around where it is, and so that just makes 2-L Zoom a tougher game than 10-L Snap, almost certainly. And I've thought that for a long time that if you want to play fast fold poker, Triple Eight's the place to play if you're UK. I'm not sure, like Bravada or Ignition, whatever the fuck it's called these days. That may be softer, but then you've got the minefield of the anonymous bit to go through, where you literally everything you do is just based on population reads. You can never get any dynamic with any player or learn things about them. So yeah, I mean, I know you started a Triple Eight challenge a long time back. If I was you, and for the time you're spending playing Zoom, I suspect you'd be much better off playing 5-L or 10-L Snap. I mean, I logged 50 quid on here yesterday because my thoughts were, well, I'm going to have less time to play in the next few weeks. I want to spend my time ironing out any leaks I have, just trying to get better, and then I'd either play on Sky. I'm not going to play on the apps too much because I'm going to be working in the mornings, which is when it's a good time to play on the apps in Asia. And I can't be staying up till 4 or 5 in the morning playing against the US players. So I'm going to have to play more Euro-friendly sites and Euro-friendly times. I know those games are going to be tougher than I'm used to. So I need to get in shape. So I lobbed 50 quid on, thought I'm just going to play several thousand hands, see what my stats are, and see what leaks have crept in. Because when you spend 15 months playing in app games, you're going to have leaks past the community because you're playing against a bunch of morons. You're not going to be playing anywhere near as well as you can. So my thought was just play 10, 15, 20,000 hands, look at your stats, see where the holes are, plug them, and then you make your mind up what you're going to do from there. Maybe I'll go and play Sky and try and play 15L, or maybe if I enjoy these snaps, because I used to love Snap back in the day. If I enjoy the Snap games, move up to 25L quickly, and see if you can't play 40, 50,000 hands a month and try and make $1,000 a month just fucking grinding out 25. Whether I could do that, and I think if I played 25L Snap and it's anything like this, I think I could reasonably expect a 5 to 6 big blind win rate quite comfortably. And then if you're churning out 40,000 hands, what's that going to be? $500, something like that. It's for a hobby. I'd take that. I think I probably, based on what I've seen in these 10L Snap games so far, I think my hourly rate playing 2 tables of 10L Snap is probably going to be better than it is playing 4 tables of 20L on Sky. I think just because of the pure volume of it, because I'm getting like 550, 600 hands per hour. If I'm doing that at, say, what I think might be 10 blinds 100, that's going to be like, what, £4 an hour? And I think 4 table in 20L on Sky, maybe that's not going to be much more than £4 an hour. By the way, I don't want £4 an hour. I want more, but I want to make sure that my games, I mean, if I can get anywhere near £8 an hour for a hobby, I'm happy fucking days. And then bash that out for 60, 70 hours a month. Then it means I don't have to go and get a fucking full-time job, which is still my biggest desire about poker is don't go somewhere where you've got a boss 37.5 hours a week, because I don't like that. I don't like being bossed around 37.5 hours a week. So anyway, we've digressed. We obviously defend versus this
slam dunk call, mate. I think, let's say, just going back to the getting on topic, for me, even in a slightly nittier 3-betting player pool, 9-8 suited, slam dunk call for me every time on the button. Also because it's really nice. It's a really nice playability hand in that you're not going to get called to fuck on, necessarily like king X boards, that sort of thing, where you're there with your, I don't know, king jack off, and you're feeling really fucking horrible facing barrels. So yeah, call it all day long.
I checked this before I called this bet. It's a super small sample size, but he was c-betting 100%. He bets really small, and I just saw that 6 of diamonds and thought, well, we're not folding just yet. I'm not sure if we should fold because we literally just have backdoor equity, but I wasn't calling just to try and make a backdoor straight or a backdoor flush. I was calling thinking if we turn equity, we can maybe sometimes use that to be aggressive, or we can call again and then try and bluff him on rivers, etc. Is this ever a fold for you, or once you see that 6 of diamonds, do you have to see one more two based on, his less than 1/3 pot bet size?
Yeah, look, I mean this kind of flop for the 3-better, this kind of reaching for the 1/3 is pretty fucking standard now.
Yeah.
And he's gonna have all of the ace king and all of the pocket kings, all of the aces. So it's a pretty reasonable board for him.
But it's going to have a lot of ace queen and random stuff as well, though.
Yeah. Now, if basically, I think it's a marginal call, even facing a small size with the 9/8 suited. However, the thing that pushes it way over the margin for me is, although it's a small sample size, the 10 out of 10 c-bet flop stat so far goes, well, fuck me, I am, I'm peeling here and seriously getting into shenanigans on later streets if we turn something sexy.
So we did call, and we did turn something quite sexy. And his turn barrel is 66%. Well, that's only 4 out of 6. But I think all the things so far that based on the limited information we've got, we can assume this guy's aggressive, possibly too aggressive.
Yeah.
So he bets that.
Yeah.
And I bet you can't guess what I did.
Well, is Reggie having a jam here?
Yeah.
Is he getting all Bob Marley?
Well, I didn't jam because, again, I think a non-all-in raise, and maybe this is fucking me just being weird, but I think a non-all-in raise looks stronger than a jam does. But that could just be bullshit. I had this discussion with Camel in Discord yesterday where I made a non-all-in raise with a spot where I just had like a weak pair of flush draw. I think it's going to come up in this video later. I just got, at the minute, I think I've just got this little add-on, and it is just a little add-on, trust me, for non-all-in raises when I'm kind of when I wouldn't mind folds. And it could just be total bullshit. But it makes no difference. It's effectively all-in, because we're never folding, obviously, once you get here.
Well, no, but also looking at what he's got behind, it is essentially all in. You're leaving him like 20 cents left or something like that.
Yeah, that's a fair. Well, I didn't consider that at the time. I just knew I didn't want to. Yeah, but you're right. I was just thinking I don't want to go all in here because I think that looks more bluffy than this. But that, as I said, it could be bullshit.
I appreciate your logic there.
So he tanked and tanked and tanked. I thought, this is working. This is fucking working. I was loving it. I was getting all excited. And then he did that, and we have no choice but call. And obviously we didn't get king queen. Now, I don't know if that's spewy or not, to be honest with you. Against the population, I'm just not fucking doing that. Against the population that doesn't 3-bet very often, doesn't c-bet super often, the double barrels on that board, there's not a chance I'm taking that line. That was very important specific, based on a sample size that's probably too small, I would guess.
Yeah, no, I'm leaning like way more to taking that sort of line myself against an opponent with those kind of stats. Yeah, I'm a big fan of the go out my way to exploit perhaps a little too far at times.
Yeah, there's plenty of people on the Sky Streets I would do that again. Like against somebody like Larson or some of the more aggressive MTT players, I'd be loving to take that line. And I don't even care when I lose because they need to see I'm capable of that. Otherwise, they're just going to run you fucking over all the time, So even when you lose there, I'm like, well, fine, we've lost a pot, but it doesn't allow them to just fucking run me the fuck over, I guess. Anyway, you were going to ask me something, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask you something because this is a kind of spot that I struggle with as well. In that, my question for you is, when you raise turn there, effectively all in, really, isn't it? So when you raise the turn there, do you do you ever really sort of have value as well? 'Cause, yeah, obviously, in an ideal world, we want value to balance our bluffs. But I know that if I'm you in that situation and I'm looking to, and I've like peeled with sixes, threes, or I've peeled one off with sevens and binked my set on the turn, um, I'm kind of I find it so hard to reach for the raise button on the turn because fuck it, they're going to be barreling off at a high frequency, probably in a 3-bet pot. There's a flush draw out there, that sort of thing. And I kind of worry for myself that whenever I raise on the turn there, I'm like so heavily weighted to bullshit because I'm just quite happy letting them hang themselves and I'm super, super nutted.
Yeah, I'm 100% the same. 100% the same. I would not raise this. I would not play a set the same way there. Not in a
Yeah.
million years. Because it's to go back in time. It's like Beluga theorem, isn't it? Like no one ever raises a turn with a bad hand. That was his kind of
Yeah.
theory, wasn't it? And I think that still stands true in the microstakes to this day, and maybe even higher. Who knows? No, when I'm raising that turn against this type of player, you know, the vast majority of the time, it is bullshit. But I think it maybe not against this player type. I don't know. It's maybe bad in general. I think um, for our overall image, it's probably not a bad thing to do because we don't mind getting caught doing this once in a while. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you and I are playing and I'm raising you on the turn in a spot where I don't represent very much, I usually don't have very much. It's just the way it's just the way it's going to work. There's no way. Yeah, I can't think of a
Mm.
single hand I would raise there except my bullshit draws. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
No point lying about it and rewriting history. If I had a
Yeah.
set there, I'm just calling all day because we don't need to race because we can get it all in on the river very comfortably.
Yeah, exactly. But of course, the only thing is, against sort of, against some spewier villains, if they are there with ace queen of spades, for example, maybe they just go, oh fuck it, well let's roll the dice then. Those times when you do raise it like that with your set of sevens as an imposition player,
Yeah,
and you manage to get all their money when they're just going to check fold on the three of diamonds river.
I think if we were deeper, I would raise turn sometimes with value with the set. If we were 200 blinds deep, I think we'd need to raise our sets on the turn because we want to set the pot up to get all the
Yeah,
money in. 100 blinds deep, it's almost always fucking air when I raise a turn. 200 blinds deep, probably a mix of air and value then. And that's not because I want to be balanced, it's just because
mm.
we need to start building the pot so we
Yeah,
can get stacks on rivers with our value. So yeah, there's no special reason for it other than you want the pot to be bigger.
yeah. Cool. Well, it's
So,
great to know you're as unbalanced as me in that
I'm
spot
not.
towards
I
bullshit when you raise the turn.
I like to know I know what a balanced range looks like. I just
Yeah.
tend to ignore it most of the time because in these games,
Yeah.
I don't think you need to be that concerned about it. Now, against someone like, when you're playing on Sky, I could, if just say there's you at the table, there's Camel and there's three fish, I'll try and be more balanced against you and Camel, whilst at the same time giving zero fucks about balance against the three fish. And if we're in a pot where there's you and the fish, then I'm not going to give a fuck about you. I'm just going to be doing what I want to do against the fish. And if you get in the way, then fuck my life, tough shit for me. But I'm just going to hope you fuck off somehow. Or
Yeah.
if I've got a strong hand, I kind of like, right, you're there, you're a pain in the ass. I'm kind of going to just play my hand out what I play against the fish, and hopefully you don't muck my plans up. That's kind of how I'm going in spots where there's fish and regulars. I
Yeah.
won't check to you a hand that I want to bet to get value from the fish in the hope that you bet. I would be more or less like fucking bet. I don't care what he does. I just want the fish to be involved. So here we've got the Queen 10 suited against the pretty nitty regular.
Hmm.
I think this hand's just to basically laugh at him. I think I put this hand in just because he plays it laughably bad. Yeah, it does. This is not one to discuss. This is not one to discuss. But this is the standard of some regulars on Triple Eight. We'll just rush through this one. Turn, he min bets again, and then river, he checks back and he had that. And like, what the fuck are you doing, sir? A, how does an 1812 have 8 high under the gun? B,
Hmm.
how do they min C bet that flop? How do they min bet the turn and just give the fuck up on the river? I mean, that's your regulars on Triple Eight snap for you, sir. I'm not sure. Like, I mean, I don't like the way I played it either, but
Yeah.
I think it's just two laughably bad players, like not knowing what the fuck to do with their hands. But I think his line was especially special.
Do you ever think about raising flop there when
Um,
you when you
Against
min
some
bets?
players, yes, but against this guy, no, because I just I don't know. I don't know. I think I see monsters under the bedding spots like this where I'm like, is he just being tricky? Is he trying to induce a raise or whatever? And yeah, I think we probably should raise the flop. In this instance, it wouldn't have done us any good whatsoever. But yeah, I think we maybe should against the min bet. I've seen him do it a couple of times, the min bet, and this is the first time I got to showdown, so I didn't know what it meant. But it is something he does use the min bet a decent amount.
Yeah,
It's something
because
that
that.
maybe if he continues in the games day after day after day, I will go into his actual thing
Mhm.
and I'll look at all his showdowns and I'll locate the times he's min bet and I'll try and figure out what the fuck he's doing with his min bets. If he's kind of doing it
Yeah.
all over the place with all parts of different parts of his range, it makes it more tricky. If he's only ever min betting when he's weak, well then obviously we can start really fucking with him, can't we? But I don't think we've
Yeah.
got a big enough sample size yet. But it's something, if I see him for the next 7 days and I see it's something he does often, I'm like you. I'm quite a nerd. I'll go in and investigate and be like, right, what is this fucking clown up to? Because this seems like he's going to be very exploitable in one way or another.
Yeah, because it's one of this. It's a sort of a general general theme thing. I always would be, or like going further back at least. If I'm the caller, the pre-flop caller, and the guy in position then sort of C bets, I'm only ever really sort of check raising with a very polarized range. So I would traditionally only ever sort of have very strong value there when I check raise. However, I am at least aware that as the tendency has trickled down from the higher stakes now for small size C bets, especially from in position players, which in theory is with a higher frequency, that as the out of position caller, we are in theory we're supposed to be attacking those small sizes much more because the small size, and obviously that gets ramped up even more when they're betting 1/5, 1/6 pot, whatever a min bet is there. So it's one of those things that I know that theoretically I'm supposed to be doing more when I'm facing smaller, but I've always found it like really tricky when I've got a hand like top pair.
I don't mind doing it on this street. My issue
Yeah.
with it is I'm going to get very lost on later streets if he doesn't fold. And I'm going to just say we check raised here on the flop to whatever it would have fucking been. Can we go
Yeah.
back to the flop? What am I doing here? My computer's being weird. So what does he bet yet? He bets 10. I mean, I'd happily just make it like 60 here, but if he calls, then there's like 180 in the pot on the turn. I'm probably going to bet again anything from probably after we check raise the flop, we probably don't want to be going small on turns because that doesn't make any sense. So we probably want to go quite big on the turn, say 150 plus. If he calls again, then all of a sudden I'm in like a 50 big blind pot with just top pair, and then I think I'm in danger of overplaying my hand. How do we approach the river? If we do check raise this flop, he calls. We bet turn, he calls. We get to the river. There's 50 blinds in there. We've got say 75 blinds behind. How the fuck do we proceed from there? All of a sudden we've created quite a shitty spot for ourselves, which is why I don't do it. Even though I agree with you, we probably need to. I think it just creates a lot of spots that I'm dangerously underqualified to play.
I completely agree with you, and although, and yeah, again, like in that situation, when I check raise flop, out of position, I then sort of feel compelled to be like going bombs away, turn, and then normally river, because what am I doing this with? Well, it's either hopefully a bluff with some equity, or it's a very strong hand, which I'm going to value town with. But it is, like I say, in this world of very small sort of flop C bets, like 25% is becoming more and more common now. I do actually use some of my upswing subscription sometimes, and I watch some of the guys in the 500 Zoom pool, and it's actually in a spot like that, I believe that with a reasonable frequency they'd be say check raising with their decent top pair in that spot, and then checking turn and sort of proceeding from there, which feels like grubby and awful.
Yeah, that's why I don't do it, because it does feel grubby. Because I'm very much of the opinion that you check raise flops, you're kind of polarizing yourself. So you just
Yeah, I
continue
agree.
bombs
Yeah.
away. And now, if good players are saying we can check raise flops versus small bets and then continue with a check on the turn, then that's something I'm definitely willing to play with and experiment with.
Yeah.
For sure, I am. Because I think if it goes
But
check turn, you've got a pretty safe value bet on rippers, I think.
yeah, because I think the idea is that when you face a small bet on the flop, you don't have to be as polarized. So you can be sort of, you can be check raising with a wider range. Well, you have to be. You have to be check raising more against a smaller size in theory, and so you can't always be polarized to the super strong parts of your range and the air, but decent equity air.
Yeah, I
So
like that. That's something I'm going to, because you've kind of opened my eyes a little bit because I haven't really seen that. And you saying that that's a thing now, check raise flop, check turns versus small bets. That's something I'm definitely willing to play with because I know this is a problem for me. In general, I would typically play quite passively versus these small bets because
likewise.
I won't have enough strong hands that I want to raise with. So I just kind of go into let's just try and get to showdown mode. But yeah, that's certainly something I'll play with today because I like the sound of it. I mean, that quite old school in my thinking there, like you were with the if we check, we have to go bombs away. Check raise, sorry, but maybe that's not the case anymore in the world of small bets.
Yeah, again, I mean, I'm sort of probably like fucking it up. It's like Chinese whispers. I'm probably giving you sort of a slightly twisted version of what really should be the case. But yeah, that's
Yeah, but it never hurts to experiment,
I'm more parroting what I've heard than what I do, sadly.
If you're going to experiment, the time to experiment is when you're playing in games that you're like enormously overrolled for. I'd rather fucking spew 4 or 5 buy-ins up at 50 and at 10 and L doing this and wait to 50 and L to think, oh fuck, one of these small bets are coming, I need to do something. Before you know it, you're spunked off 250, not having a clue what you're doing. I'd rather realise I didn't have a clue what I was doing at the lower stakes. So here we have a raise. He's flatted. It was mandatory C bet. So we'll just skip through that.
Yep.
Are we barreling the turn? Picking up a little bit of it. Although obviously the 10's going to be pretty dirty for the straight.
Yeah. I don't see why not. Sorry, my attention slightly lapsed at the very start of this hand. Is this single raise?
Yeah, we opened 2.5x. He's called and he check called the flop.
Okay, sorry. What size did you go on the flop? Remind
me. 33. So I went 60% pot on the turn.
Yeah.
On the flop, sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I should probably go smaller, but I didn't. There we go.
Yeah. I actually no, not necessarily. It's it's weird. I think this is one of those spots where we're supposed to mix. If we were trying to play like a solver, we would be going for I don't know like a third pot and 66% with slightly different frequencies. But I actually think that on boards like that where you are so nutted compared to your opponent. I believe the highest frequency bet would be a larger size one on a board like this. He's never going to have queens, but in theory, he never has queens. He never has aces. He almost has not a lot of ace queen. Ace queen is going to be 3-betting even the offsuit combos more often than not here. So I think when you have a board that massively favours you, you get to go super large with your whole range with a higher frequency than you do with a smaller than you do with the smaller size. So actually, I don't think you do need to go smaller. In fact, I quite like you going a larger size there. And I think when you get to the turn here. Again, you still have a board that sort of massively favours you still because you're going to be taking that large size with ace queen. You're also going to be there with ace jack. And if you're kind of, I don't know if you would bet jacks if you're going to sort of be playing your range rather than your hand. But here with 9-7 of spades, you get to the turn with one of the worst hands you can have it in some regards if you go for a larger size. So fucking hell, I'm going bombs away too.
I think I would do it. I don't know if I overbet here or not. Would you like an overbet?
I wouldn't hate an overbet. I don't. Actually, I don't know. I don't know how much I love the overbet on the jack. Only because villain will have should still have pretty much all the king 10 offs here. and he's going to be, he's not going to be 3-betting King 10.
Yeah, true.
Well, he's certainly not going to be 3-betting King 10 off here with any high frequency at all. So
I don't remember the hand.
no,
I just know this is a spot where I would overbet quite a lot because of the reasons you said. I don't think he's
yeah,
going to be that. King 10's the only kind of nutted hand he can have. I guess Queen Jack he can certainly have as well, which I didn't
yeah,
think of at the time. I don't actually know what he did, so let's see what happens.
yeah.
He just folds.
I like the size.
So
Yeah,
that was nothing much going on there.
I like it.
Next one, ace 5 suited. We open. We get 3-bet by a regular, and I can't have known this at the time because I don't think I'd defend this hand versus someone who's only
3-bet once in 38
times. Yeah, this must have been before I knew this much about him because I don't think I would have defended here.
Yeah.
Oh, that's even worse. I think.
Well, yeah, but
I know why I did this now. It's because we're deep. That's why I've chose such a big size because of our depth. This is why I've marked this one because I think 100 big blinds deep. I wouldn't even have made the 4-bet full stop, but I think because we're deeper, I decided to try and use it. This goes back to when I was watching the Doug Polk challenge with Negreanu, and I heard Polk say on several occasions when you're in position, you can get away with making quite a lot of large 4-bets with hands like this. So again, I might be completely misapplying that because this isn't a heads-up pot, and I'm playing against a fucking nit, not against somebody who's probably 3-betting 20%. So I could be completely misapplying what he said. But this is why I've marked this hand.
At the same time, it's still only 113 hands in total you got on this guy. So, as I know yesterday, I think you said you played 2 sessions, and your stats were like chalk and cheese between those 2 sessions of 800-900 hands in each session. So, I'm all for adjusting. But it's only 113 hands. He could have just had a real, it could be a guy who in the real world, 3-bets 8% normally, and he just had, a run of, not having any 3-bet spots. It's only 113 hands. So, sample size to a certain point.
I mean, nothing happens here. He folds, but I think I marked this one just for, should we be 4-betting this hand? I think these are the sort of hands I think I've heard you say too. I like 4-betting the suited wheel aces as my 4-bet bluffs. And then it's just sizing because of depth. Because obviously I wouldn't go 100 blinds deep. I would never go this size. If I was going to 4-bet here, I'd probably only 4-bet to, certainly less than 25 bigs. It'd be somewhere between 22 to 25 bigs, never more. But this was more like, is this sizing okay for this depth, or should we still just be making it 25 or something, or do we go bigger with our 4-bets because of the stack depths?
I think it's not something that I can claim to know the answer to. I certainly like the theory of going large with your 4-bets when you are this deep. Just another question for you then, because we're about 200 bigs effective, aren't we, here at the start of the hand?
Yep.
Now, in a if we're 100 bigs effective, absolutely, I love ace 5 suited as one of the most ideal feeling 4-bet bluff hands to go for. When we're this deep though, and you're going to have position, is there more merit to putting these kind of hands into a calling range because they have nut potential, much more playability down the streets? And we basically get to put our opponent in spots still because SPR is going to be way lower as we start at 200 deep.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. But then what are you going to use for your 4-bet bluffs instead? Or are you just not going to have many 4-bet bluffs because of how deep we are?
No, I think you can certainly have 4-bet bluffs still. I mean, beyond suited wheel aces became sort of with many players the go-to thing, but you could also use something like ace queen off as a 4-bet bluff here, because it does a better job of blocking the value 3-bet range
fair point.
Of our opponent as well. So I certainly know that sort of some of the wizards will be using a hand like ace queen off as a 4-bet bluff, and maybe perhaps when you're this deep, maybe it's preferable to sort of then start saying, well, do you know what? I'll start putting all my suited wheel aces into a flatting range here, and chucking in, my ace queen off as a bluff with, I don't know, 50% of someone else.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because ace queen off definitely has like better blocking qualities than ace five does. I completely agree with that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's fair enough. I just thought that was like
But
an
it also
interesting
doesn't have
hand to
that
put
nut
in.
potential that ace five suited does. It
Yeah,
makes it more comfortable than playing down the streets if you flat your ace queen off in position here, this
yep,
deep.
I agree. Next, your favourite hand?
Hope you fold this pre.
Well, this one is going to get quite a lot of hate. I don't know what it's going to get from you, but we are deep
Oh,
again.
hang on. I think I saw this in
Yeah,
Discord.
you've seen
Yeah,
this one.
I forgot. I haven't replied on it
So
yet.
so we three bet.
Yeah.
He four bet. I mean, we're out of position with pocket kings, 200 blinds deep. Spoiler alert for anyone watching, I fold, but let's just fucking go from here. What are you doing here with that? I mean, we can't get it in, surely, can we? We can't five bet and get it in, surely, can we? I mean, I've seen you four pocket kings with fucking like 25 blinds in certain spots,
Yeah, I'm aware of seeming like a humongous hypocrite here now, to anyone who knows my form in tournaments and cash. Very different arena for me. Very different. I don't think folding is ever an option here.
No, well, I agree, I probably agree. Again, this when I do stuff like this, it's just because I think there's so many cleaner spots in these games. I don't want the variance and the fucking mental game and the fuck it. I'm going to lose this pot, and then I'm going to get cross. I'm either going to quit and I'm going to play shit after it. It's a leak. I'm just being honest.
Mm,
I shouldn't fold here, but
yeah.
I'm just like I just don't want to deal with the spot. So fuck it. I'll just fold because I mean, how often are people four bet bluffing? We've just done it in the last hand. We've literally just done that in the same fucking spot. I think this hand came before the ace five suited in actual time. Um, and I think I'd noticed he'd used a bigger four bet size, which inspired me to use a bigger four bet size with the ace five. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, saying how often are people bluffing here? Well, they are sometimes because I do it, and I know you do it, and probably lots of other regulars do too. I just
Yeah.
didn't want to deal with pocket kings out of position, 200 blinds deep. I didn't want to raise again because I think if he jams, because we've got two kings, the hand we want to see most, ace king, isn't there anywhere near as often. Is anyone getting 200 bigs in with queens? Maybe some are, but I don't think it's happening that often. And
Mm,
I just think there's only bad news if you four bet. Sorry, if you five bet. Sorry, I think there's only
yeah.
bad news. And calling and then trying to play the streets didn't seem that pleasant to me. Even though I think that's easily the best line. Call here, and
Mm,
then probably just have to go broke on boards that don't contain fucking like a jack, a queen, or an ace. I mean, if it comes like queen, jack, X, I think we probably have a pretty simple check fold on the flop because then we're fucked to his jacks and queens at four bet two. But I think if it comes like nine high and then runs out pretty clean, I think we probably just have to go check call, check call, check call. But again, how often is someone going to bet three streets here with pocket queens on or pocket jacks on, say, a 9 or a 10 high board? Again, I don't think the population is doing it enough to justify calling down, but I might be very wrong on that. I might have a very bad opinion on the population. But I think if we
mm.
four bet and get it in here, if we five bet and get it in, we're just up against aces way too often. And if we check call down three streets on boards that we don't mind, I think we're not going to be good that often either. So I just thought this is going to be a tough spot whatever happens. Let's just fucking not bother, which is a shit way to think, but it's honest. It's how I was thinking at the time. I didn't see
What's your
many good
cut-off point
outcomes.
then? What's your cut-off point in this exact situation? What's the deepest you're happy to be getting all in pre then with your kings here?
I'd probably start getting uncomfortable at about 150 bigs, I think. Anything more than
Okay.
150, I'd be like, I'm not that comfy anymore. Obviously, 100 blinds or 120 blinds, 130 blinds, I think I'd probably just jam. If he had like $10 behind now, I wouldn't fuck around. I'd just jam it in.
Yeah.
My only five bet size would be all in. So anything where I could just five bet all in, I would do it. I don't think we could five bet all
Mm.
in 20 here and get called by worse.
No.
So yeah, anything that was comfortable five bet jamming, I'm fine with. Anything where I think, oh shit, I need to start calling here, I'm probably not fine with.
Mm. I think, yeah, I think I don't. It's remarkable. I don't think I'm ever folding kings here. um, I think
That's clip worthy.
I just, yeah, I think, yeah, so I'm just pausing for a like, 200 blind, 200 deep is like always harder to navigate because we're all way less experienced in it, really, aren't we? I'm just thinking like, I don't think we ever, like have a 5-bet fold range here, do we?
No,
I don't think
no,
we
no,
can have a
no.
5-bet fold. So yeah, I honestly, basically, I'm getting my RNG out. I'm just gonna go with it pre 50% of the time. So I'll be 5-betting or I'll be flatting the other 50% of the time. I can't bring myself to fold kings here.
Yeah,
Not when
I think I'm very much in the minority who did this. I think I'm probably in like a 1 or 2% majority there. Minority, sorry, but
yeah,
yeah,
I
it is what it
almost,
is.
because it almost makes me sort of wonder if you're going to be like if you're going to be 3-bet folding kings here out the small blind when you're 200 bigs deep against someone. It almost makes me think, because you're playing fast fold, like, is it silly of you to be playing 200 bigs deep if you're going to be sort of taking something as powerful as kings, because you can rat hold your heart's content in these games. Would it make more sense to go, fuck it, I'm 200 bigs, or as soon as I get to 160, I'll close that table, reopen it, and sit down again with 100?
Um, I don't like doing that. I've done it when I've played higher, and I've been shitting my pants. 50 when I used to play 50 snap. If I got 250 bigs, I was rat holding like a little bitch that I am. But in these games where I think I've got a much bigger edge over the population in general, I'd rather stay deep. But then you're saying you think you've got a much bigger edge over the population and you're folding King's Pre, so maybe there's a contradiction in there somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I know this isn't going to be a popular fucking fold, and
No.
I'm going to be ridiculed, but fuck me. You put yourself out there on YouTube or like you do on Twitch, you open yourself up to ridicule and fuck them. At the end of the day, long term, I make money, and if I make the occasional bad fold, I think it's not as bad as making too many bad stands. I guess.
Yeah.
I guess so. Who
Yeah.
knows? I mean,
They're cheaper mistakes.
look around the table, see, I've got a big enough edge of 23-0, 28-6. This guy who I don't even know,
7-5.
I don't even know why he's there, but there you go. So yeah, that's definitely a mistake. I should continue there in some way, and in position,
I
I
think
would
so,
for
yeah.
sure continue. But I think out of position, I just thought I don't like the situation. I just don't like it, and that's what I do quite a lot early in hands. If I just think I don't like this situation and I don't see it getting better very often, I'll just be like, this is too tough. I'm just going to fold, and then I'm going to talk about it with people and try and get a better idea what to do next time it happens, because we're not this deep that often, and we're not going to be facing 4-bets this deep that often. So it's not like it's a super common occasion where this is going to happen 4 or 5 times a session, and I'm hemorrhaging hundreds of big blinds. It's maybe a
Yeah.
once a fucking month scenario. So just accept that this is a leak of mine that probably isn't going to go away anytime soon, and accept it and just live with that part of myself.
No, yeah, you're all about a low variance life. I get that.
I'm very, very much a love it. That's why I don't do the MTT stuff, because it fucking bores me piss too much. You play for 5 hours and then your entire night's locked up in one hand. Nah, no thank you.
Yeah.
Here we. Oh, this is just a fun one. Not too much to talk about here, apart from the
Yeah.
river. Obviously, call, we turn
Yeah.
straight flush, and then he bombs the river. We go all in with our straight flush. He looks it up with ace queen high, which is quite interesting, I think. What do
That's
you think of Villain's line there?
uh well, I mean, he likes his glue, doesn't he?
He does like his that. I was when he bombed the river. I just, oh right, good, cool. He's got the ace of diamonds. Let's go. And then when you snap called and I saw that, I was like, that's just a tilt call on the end. That's just him pissed off, not giving a fuck anymore, isn't it? He's never thinking he's
Yeah.
good because he's snap called as well. That's just him.
Yeah.
He's pissed off with the whole hand. He's like, oh fuck it, just have more, you prick. And we've all done it.
Yeah.
We don't want to
Yeah.
admit it, but we've all like, I know I'm beat here, but fuck you. Have some more money,
Yeah.
you fucking bell end. That's
Yeah.
what that one was. So we can skate over that. I just thought that
Yeah,
was quite amusing.
you've screwed up with the first 50 big blinds, and you just resign yourself to fucking up the other 50
Yes,
because you don't know what else to do.
and we've all done it, and we'll all fucking do it again.
Yeah,
This one I do not remember at all as yet. We've faced a small squeeze from somewhat. Fuck me, we haven't got any hands. Surely we've got one hand on him because he's fucking here. So I'm not sure how we've got
yeah,
0 hands, but there we go. Obviously, we're going to call. Get that flop. He bets that. Guess we're just calling.
yeah.
There's
I
no
think so.
raising, is there, on the ace high board? I think on some lower boards, if the ace was say a 9, I think there could be some raising there on a board
Yeah,
that doesn't really favour him, but don't think there's any raising here.
I don't think so.
Don't know what's going. This could just be another boring hand. Right, yes, river. Do you raise or just call now?
Um, well, I think I'm raising river here. I think villain can have enough ace king. Um, yeah, I think villain can have enough ace king, possibly even ace queen, that you want to be raising for value here. Put
Yeah,
them in a spot.
I'm
Yeah,
thinking this is going to be one of the spots you talked about earlier where I just don't raise rivers because although I'm very confident I've got the best hand I can call. I think now looking back at this is a slam dunk raise. If I don't go all in here, I'm a fucking moron. I did.
yeah,
That's all right then. Yeah, maybe I just marked this because it's like I was questioning myself because I know I've got a leak on rivers when I'm led into with strong but not nutted hands. So at least this time we got the raise in, and he folded.
yeah.
And again, maybe that just like backs up me theory of I don't think I'm ever getting called by worse. So is there any point in raising? I guess that's just one of them we talked about earlier. We can't remember what the hand was now.
There is, yeah. Also, actually, this hand is another one, a bit like that other one where, yeah, like, are you ever raising the sort of the super strong part of your range on the turn here? Do you ever, would you ever raise your turned flush here, Reg, in a 3-bet pot on an ace high board?
Obviously not. No, obviously not. And perhaps we should be.
You just rolled low, surely. That's all it was.
That's exactly what I did. I looked at the clock
Yeah.
and it was 25 past, and I thought, no, we don't do this on 25 past. We're going to do this on 26. Right, so.
But in these spots here where it's where you said like previously you may have sort of shied away slightly from putting the raisin on the river because you're not sure if you get called by worse. There's one thing that's really good about it. It does very nice things to your red line.
It does terrible things to your red line because the cunts fold, do you? Your red line just continue. It does nice things to your blue line, but your red line just fucking drops down.
What are you on about? That previous hand, you've just.
Oh no! Sorry, I thought you were talking about when I called. Yes, of course it does nice things to your red line. Sorry, I thought you said when you call it does nice things to your red line.
No, sorry, no. I'm talking about come the river when you're like, I'm
about?
ignoring about the raising.
Yeah, I think that's why my red line isn't that good because I don't take enough like thin raise spots on rivers. I do just tend to call more than raise, so my red line's never been that good. But my red line, if I'm losing at say 10 bigs, 100 red. I'm fine with that. I'm just like, whatever, it's a microstakes, you're supposed to lose. If it starts dropping down lower than 10 bigs red, then I know some passive leaks have popped in somewhere, so I'll do something about it. I think, like, if we just get this back up again, try and make it smaller so it fits a bit better. We look at my graph. It's pretty good. Ran below EV as well, thought I'd put that bit in. I had a really good day yesterday, fucking crushed it for like 1 million bigs. But my red line isn't too bad there, I don't think. We played 3,000 hands and we've lost $20 red line. So at 10 bigs, we'd have lost $30. So we're losing like 7.5 bigs red line. I can live with that. If it's looking like that, it's fine. If it continues trending down like this all the way, I think it becomes hard to win.
Well, I do agree with you there. My red line kind of is a bit different to yours. I'm a bit more of a red line hero than you. But my blue line ain't as sexy as a result. So it's all, yeah.
So does your red line?
You rob Peter to pay Paul, don't you?
Is it typically above 0? Your red line?
It depends on the stakes really. Honestly, I haven't put much volume in on like proper trackable sites in a long while. But just say like my 2NL Zoom adventures. I think my red line is something like plus 15 bigs per 100 at the moment.
Right. Okay. Well, that is nice. I could do that over over 500 hands. If I have a session where I'm feeling me fucking oats a little bit, but typically, yeah, that's not where
Yeah.
my red line resides. It doesn't reside in the higher
Yeah,
areas.
I like river shenanigans. I'm one for river shenanigans, so I think that's where a lot of my red line comes from.
I think I need to learn some of these river shenanigans. So anyway, we've isolated the limper here. He's been the only one that's folded. Yeah, this is just a sizing thing. It's going to turn into a bad beat story, but that isn't why I posted it. What are we doing on this board with this stat that checks to us? Where you go?
Sorry,
Where you going
I've done that
sizing
thing
wise?
of being slightly miles away at the very start of this hand.
Under the gun
Again, what
limit,
is this?
we potted to 45 cents, 2 blinds called, under the gun folded, and now they checked to us.
Okay. It's weird 'cause they're both so short as well.
That's why I put it in, because it's like I think we got options here of just go. I don't think small betting's a thing. I think it's ranging between big and all in. I think, and I'll tell you, I went all in, but I wasn't sure. Even though we go all in here, which is to give you the spoiler. We get it all in. We get it in good, but is generally all in. I think it's reasonable because I think there's so many hands that are just going to call us here. And I think like just putting like 35 bigs in or whatever just right now. I think Jack X isn't folding. 10X might not fold. There's a whole host of like pair plus draw out there. Some flush draws out there. So I decided just to go with the all-in shuffle. Yeah, basically just because we've got like an SPR of 2 and a bit. And to me, it felt like the best sizing, but I'm not sure if it is or not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird, isn't it? It always feels a bit spewy. And this is one of the reasons I'm not that great at tournaments because, what are these cunts doing here with, 35, 36, 37 bigs left behind? Where's the rest of their fucking stack?
Yeah.
What do we do here? With that in mind, you kind of think, oh well, yeah. If you go massive, what do? You narrow their range down. They only continue with the very very strongest parts of their range, which will sometimes have you crash.
I think if someone's in here with like an ace 10, king 10 type of hand, I don't think they do. I think they just say fuck it, call, because I think the overbet to their mind will quite often look like the guy just wants me to fold, and that's why I did it, because I thought we could get called by it. If I thought the overbet always makes 10x fold, I wouldn't do it. But my opinion was that, well, a lot of 10x might have a straight draw to go with it. Jack X is never folding, I don't think. 10x, if we're getting calls from 10x some of the time, I just thought we could get called by a decent amount of 10x as well as Jack X. So that's why I did it at this stack. I think if they're at 50 blinds, I think we have to play normally, just like C-bet 120 or whatever, and then just not fold it. If they jammed, then it's fucking YOLO it and go with it. But I think at this, I think maybe even 40 blinds, we probably don't do it. But they both just looked to me like, well, whatever. We got SPR at 2 and a bit. I've never bet folding, so just jam for value, expecting nobody to fold a jack or a 10 very often. So that's what I did. I'm not sure that's right, by the way. And it's not something I would do in a tournament at this stack depth. I would play it in a tournament. I would probably be betting quite small here quite often. But I actually think on Sky especially, it's probably a reasonable play in the tournaments against a lot of the players on Sky, because I can imagine a lot of players that you like teasing on your stream wouldn't be that into folding a 10 here. Imagine if you're up against Colin or somebody like that. If Colin's got 10-7, then is Colin folding 10-7? Probably not, I wouldn't imagine.
No, quite right. Basically, honestly, the line you're taking here is something that I've done myself before, like quite a few times in Sky Cash games, where you got like a couple of fish in the pot. They're both short, ball to wet and dynamic. So I don't really hate the line at all. Theoretically, I don't really know how we're supposed to play this. It's a pretty if you got like good thinking villains here, the board's pretty good for their range. In theory, it's almost one of those things like, if these were two sort of very high end players, what do you do then?
Well, if two high end players and we're 100 blinds deep, I'm not in love with that flop because I think I'm going to get raised a lot in this spot. I think we
Yeah.
were chatting with Cod about it earlier in the week, where people just get out of line on these types of boards. I think he was citing 10-9 boards specifically, but this is a
Yeah,
very similar board where I
it
think you're going to
is.
get played back a lot on this board.
Yeah.
So
Wetter than an otter's pocket, as I like to say.
yes, absolutely. I think like if we see bet this, just say we were 100 blinds deep with two good players.
Yeah.
If we see bet this probably to 110, something like that, I think we're going to be
Yeah.
facing a lot of raise and things start getting dicey.
Mm.
But against these two specific players who aren't
Yeah.
topping up, we've got no hands on them. If they're not playing full stacks, I just automatically assume might be a tight fish, but a fish nevertheless. So let's just assume the fishes, assume they're not going to fold anything that's connected, and just go with the lot. That was my theory.
Yeah, no, I do quite like the line, to be honest with you. Kind of, fuck it, let's just stick it in. You haven't got much money. Let's fully realise our equity. Yeah, I don't dislike it at
And
all.
it worked because he called with pocket nines, and sadly he got there. And I'm not putting it in because it's a bad beat. I don't give a fuck about bad beats.
No.
I just thought it was like an interesting spot.
Not at all. But so yeah, let's take this exact same spot though, and let's say that both blinds who flatted, both have started the hand with 100 big blinds, and they're both they're both good regs, as far as you're concerned. In that particular spot, do you think checking back river? Do you think checking river in position with your queens is
checking river
ever a good thing to
it depends how we get there, doesn't it?
Sorry,
you're talking flopper, yeah?
Sorry, flop here. So yeah, when you're in that spot on the flop, both players start 100 bigs. They're both good regs. Is checking flop ever viable?
Well, I would, whether it is or not. You and I both come from a similar page in a lot of our approach to poker, and I would check back this flop a decent amount here because it's primarily because I don't want to deal with being raised. That's my main motivation. Not because I think it's a good board to do it on or anything clever. It's just if I'm in a spot with a hand where I don't want to be raised, I won't bet a lot. But again, that comes from something I watched in a Doug Polk video years ago, where he was doing one of his poker hand reviews, and he said a good rule of thumb is if you're in a spot where you bet and getting raised would really fucking suck, don't bet. I've kind of always naturally had that, but hearing someone like him validate it. Yeah, I would check back this board a fucking ton with pocket queens here. I wouldn't be checking back with a view to folding a turn, or maybe even a river on certain runouts. Just say this run out, just say it was Jack 10-8, I check back, flop comes a deuce, and they bet a call, river comes a 3, and they bet. I'm probably just going call down then, and expecting to, win enough with the time to make that okay. But yeah, there'd be no. I wouldn't be c-betting this against two good players, and I wouldn't be raising versus turn probes. I'd just be like, right, call. And then if they check the river, I'd probably bet for value and just shut my eyes and hope the raise didn't come in, because that would make me very, very sad. But yeah, I'd be checking back this flop a lot. Whether that's correct or not, who knows against two good regulars. Maybe we shouldn't be, because, if we're not betting queens here, are we betting kings and aces? I don't know. I genuinely don't know, which is why I don't like playing against good players very often, because they make life more difficult than I need it to be.
I wonder if in that spot, if having the queen of clubs makes it a more preferable, a better choice of hand to bet some value with in that situation.
I think if we're going to start splitting the queens down, I think betting without the club and checking with the clubs may be better, because we're a little bit less vulnerable to letting flushes get there when we check back with the club, aren't we? Or are you thinking the other way around? You bet with the club and you check without the club.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking maybe sort of bet with the club, because some of the most natural bluff combos are going to be around flush draws and around straight draws. Having two queens, we're already seriously blocking straight draws. Obviously, blocking the nuts already, and maybe if you've got the queen of clubs as well, you're blocking even more of their check raises that they're going to have with their check raises built around the flush draw. So you're less, perhaps you're going to face those kind of situations slightly less frequently, because they're going to have less combos that they feel are going to be obvious natural bluff candidates.
It makes
so
sense.
You're going to face less check raises.
The queen of clubs does block our chances of getting raised more, doesn't it? Almost for certain, because they are going to have a lot of bluffs around the queen of clubs. I think the other side of that is which I mentioned was if we check back the Queen of Clubs, we're less worried about a club coming on the turn because we know we have a redraw against some clubs and stuff. I think you could make a case either way. I think I like your case better,
Yeah.
to be honest, against good players because I think like having a card that reduces the frequency we're going to be raised makes it a much more confident bet. So yeah, I think I think you can make a case for both, but I like your case
Mm.
much better. I like your case
It's a
much
good job we
better.
both go out of our way. We both go out of our ways to make sure we don't play good players, isn't it?
Yeah, but absolutely. I don't see the fucking point in playing good players. I mean, if you have to, because there's some bad players in the game, fine. But yeah, these
Yeah.
fuckers who go out the way, like the old argument of, oh, you want to get better by playing good players, so playing the toughest pools. Well, do you not play good players in soft pools too? You know, it's not like to me. Don't go out your way to look for really good players to play against. Learn from them by watching their content or by watching what they're doing. But you don't have to go to fucking war with them and start getting in pissing contests with them.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I mean, do you find me? I think we said it on the podcast. Find me the biggest bunch of morons. I'll sit with matchsticks in my eyes, but not interested. I don't mind if I'm on Sky and it's me, you, and another good player and three fish. I'm all over it. Like, I have like a ratio on Sky. If there's me, I won't join the table. If there's already three regs at the table and I'm going to be the fourth, I won't even join it most of the time unless there's a massive, massive whopper there that I get good position on. If I'm at a table
Yeah.
that was good and then a fourth reg joins and there's still two fish, I'm probably too lazy to switch it out. But I certainly won't join tables that already have three regs on because I just want to see dead money. The rake's fucking huge. You've talked about it before on your
Oh, it's
stream and all
yeah.
sorts. The raking like 100 big blinds 100. So every 100 hands, some fuckers raked off the table. Now, if you're playing with three of the regulars who are theoretically beating the rake, then
Mm.
then in 100 times time, one of them fishers been raked off the fucking table. So you're basically chopping up, 100 big blinds at best between four regulars, and you're not even doing that because there's a lot of
Mm.
high variance battling over
Yeah.
not a lot of fucking money, to be frank. So no, there's not a lot of dead money at the table. I typically won't play, but I'm playing in these games. I said to you yesterday morning after my first session, the games were like shit and dead nitty. I didn't enjoy them. But I didn't know the HUD was working. And I said, like my first session, I was just a clusterfuck because I was
Mm.
trying to get rid of the HUD. Even when I close hold and manage, it wouldn't fucking go away. It was just a ball ache. And that was just fucking, I
Yeah.
played really nitty, like fucking 16, 12, 15, something like that. It was awful. And then you said, oh, the HUD works on there now. So that inspired me to have another go because I thought, well, if I'm going to be playing against nits, having a HUD, I want to know like who the nits are, who the aggressive regulars are. And it's actually gone. My next three sessions went absurdly well. A little bit of run good. Even though I've ran below EV, I still got a lot of good situations in terms of run good. And I actually enjoyed it, so I'm going to do it again today rather than
Cool.
play on
How do you,
Sky.
out of interest, how do you feel about Triple Eight after many, many years now allowing HUD use on their snap games?
I didn't like it. I did like it at first, but then once the Russians created a HUD for themselves, that I didn't want to buy from anyone from Russia because I didn't want them watching me wanking and stuff like that, and blackmailing me down the line.
Yeah.
So I never used. I didn't buy one. The furthest I went was eight. I got triple eight caption, and I wasn't that confident getting that because I was buying it from a fucking Russian.
Yeah.
Um, so I wasn't. I liked it until I realised, well, some people are cheating here, and they have
Mm.
a significant advantage because they have a HUD.
Yeah.
So I didn't
Mate,
like it.
that's what I've hardly played any snap at all for that exact reason. I was well aware of the guy who produced a slightly like murky against TNC's HUD for snap, but I thought fuck it, I'm just going to avoid snap, and so I played loads on Triple Eight, always regular tables. But now that this is allowed, I'm kind of thinking, well, maybe I actually go back and put some volume
I
in
think
on
you
the
should
snap
give these
games.
10 snap games a whirl. I think you'd like them.
Yeah,
They are
yeah.
a bit nitty, as we've seen.
Mm.
They're a bit tight, but they're not good. It's basically, from what I've seen, there's one or two good regulars. I would say, based on what I saw yesterday, without blowing my own trumpet, I'd be a top 2% regular in the pool I've seen so far. Top 5% definitely. A lot of the regulars are just really, really boring nits. And then you've got your tight fish, and then there's your occasional like bona fide fish. The game is very, very beatable, in my opinion. Based on what I saw yesterday, I think a 10 big blind 100 win rate's achievable. And then, my plan originally was just put some in, look at the games. My plan's changed now to maybe think about trying to spin it up and start playing the 25NL games that only tend to run later in the day. They don't really run in the mornings much. And then the third part of me thought, well, if I'm not going to be playing on Sky, why not just take money on Sky and just go straight into the 25NL games? But I'd probably rather get maybe 20 or 30,000 hands under my belt at this. Make sure it's not just been a bit of fucking heat. Make sure I'm playing pretty well.
Yeah.
Discuss a lot of hands with people. Make sure that my game's in reasonable shape, and then do it. I mean, I don't like having lots of money on sites. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to talk about my financial situation, but I'm massively overrolled for any game I want to play. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I just, especially now, I've given up the apps and the income's not going to be there, and I'm just going to be earning money now from my care work and poker. I've got to be more careful with bankroll, even though I could afford to lose 100 buy-ins and then still fucking reload. I'd rather just do it properly and be like, well, that money's there now. It's in the bank. It's in the building site. It's not part of my poker life anymore. And maybe I've got a couple of grand for a poker bankroll, but I'd still rather not have all that on. So if I'm not going to be playing on Sky that much, do we just keep a couple of hundred on there for stream nights and transfer the 400 or 500 across here and have an instant 25 and I'll bankroll? Or I won't decide what to do, but I always am a flitter around like fuck anyway.
I think one consideration I think for you, which may be worth bearing in mind. Actually, I mentioned this in the Discord. We were talking about this, I don't know, sometime over the past 48 hours, I think, is that I'm very much the same school as you in that I would sort of, I think Triple Eight was the exception because there were sort of currency issues. Like you get stung with currency conversion coming in and out on Triple Eight. But on sites where currency issues, conversion issues, isn't a thing at all. I would always keep sort of a very small amount on there and just stick more on as and when I needed to. However, well, Craig C. I was talking about this till the cows come home, but it looks like more and more regulation is coming in regarding affordability tests, which has basically moved me to decide that on sites where I'm happy to, Sky would be a prime example, I'm now increasing the amount that I keep in my accounts. So whereas previously, I might spin up a bit and then withdraw it, I'm now leaving that amount in there just, for, if there are times, if I go on a downswing, my life is a bit weird. I might have trouble sort of proving that I was, all right to, bung another 500 quid in here and there whenever I wanted. So that may be one thing to bear in mind. I know that other players are doing the same. I know Destiny Cod's doing the same, for example. Obviously, much bigger numbers with him, but maybe some food for thought there.
Yeah,
I certainly know
definitely.
I've done that.
Triple Eight or when you try to do an affordability check on me, the problem is the software's that shit. I'm gonna have to phone them later because when you log in, a pop-up box comes. It's asking you to complete your application, your occupation. So you click the drop-down box, and it's just a blank field with nothing, and you can't type in it. So I tried to ring them about 8:30 this morning, but the support only works 10 a.m. till midnight. So I have to ring them again and just try and talk through it with them. I mean, I don't think I'd fall under that affordability check too much. Although, to be fair, I'd have a problem, showing my income for the last 12 to 18 months because it's mostly been from more dubious fucking places, obviously, with the app stuff. My actual pay that I've had from employers over the last 12 months is probably going to be less than $5,000, I would say. So, I'd look like I couldn't afford to play fucking 2NL, never mind fucking the games I might want to play.
Exactly.
So that might be difficult for me. But I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. Who knows? I mean, ultimately, if they wanted to be really nosy, I'd just get me fucking building society book out and just take a photo and then say, right, you nosy bastards, there you go. I've got money. Leave me the fuck alone. But I'd rather not do that because it's none of their fucking business, to be frank.
Yeah, although actually that might not be enough. I remember sort of. I think I was looking on 2+2 the other day. It might have been about GG have been sort of quite hot on this. Not a place I've played as yet, but a guy was basically sort of. I think he was like, maybe he was a poker pro or what have you. But basically that was his thing. Is Triple Eight still sorry, not Triple Eight. GG still wouldn't sort of have it. I think they just kind of like stopped him depositing, even though it wasn't like particularly large amounts. And he had like look. I've got a big fat pile of cash in the bank. And they're like, that's very, very nice. but you don't have much by way of an income that we can see. It's all about the income. It's not about the assets.
Well, that's fucking nonsense,
So
isn't it? You know, I mean, there's going to be
yeah,
quite a lot of very rich people who
hmm.
well, I don't fucking know. I'm not,
I don't.
I just
But anyway,
imagine if I'm a pensioner and
yeah.
I'm basically I've got a nice, you know, I don't know, I own my own fucking home, but I'm only on state pension or what have you. I think it's a bit rich that Sky is saying no, you can't fucking play. It's none of their fucking business, you know. It's up to me. Have the conversation with me, and then say, right, well, okay, let's put some restrictions in place. But for them just to flat out restrict me, all it will do, it will just push more and more people into more and more shady environments like the ones I've just come from, and it gives them even less
Yeah.
protection. You know, but it's like
I
when
completely agree with you. It's just a sort of, we might all need to sort of, we may perhaps need to bear that in mind. So like I said,
yeah,
I know that
absolutely. Well, um,
I'm withdrawing less and building up my my pots
yeah, I
on
think it's
sites
probably something I have
no
to
word.
consider. I agree. I mean, I have had four figures on a poker account for a long time because I've never had the need to. But if it is going to be a problem reloading after a downswing, then you're going to have to just start keeping more on. I mean, I think your money's safe as houses with Triple Eight and Sky and things like that. The big companies, and you know, if they go tits up, you should never have more than you can afford to lose on the site anyway. So if it went tits up and I
No,
lost $1,000, I'd be fed up. But it's, you know, the sun still come up the next day, and you know, you'd be pissed off, but you wouldn't die, would you? So
no,
whatever.
no.
It's just something
And
to remember.
I'm like you, mate. I'm a humongous bankroll net, and although I've got I might have a chunk on or chunks on different sites, still 60-70% of my actual money that I put aside and call my roll is still sat in a separate savings account.
Yeah,
So,
mine is too.
um,
Well, mine's not even in the
yeah,
savings account. I think I talked on your podcast. I have whatever in the accounts. Then I have PayPal, which is bankroll still. Then I have the current account, which can be touched if if ever need to go from current account to PayPal. Then I've had a bad downswing. But once it goes from current account to savings account, that's it. It's untouchable. It's fucking locked in, and that's it. Because if I had to go to my wife and say, oh, "I need to get 500 quid out of building society," why, love? Because I need to reload Sky and bust. She'd be like, "Well, do you think you should still be playing, Reg?" And it'd be a difficult question to answer because if I've lost 1,500 quid playing poker, it's a reasonable question. Do you need to stick another 500 on, Reg? Are you not the wizard you once were? You know, who knows? Anyways, next hand, Ace King. We open. We get called. Don't remember this hand. Was all right. We've been donked into, overbet donked into. You like this sort of shit,
right,
don't you?
yeah.
So I guess it's just a call or raise. Do we call to keep red zone in, or do we just raise now against Angry Doc, who, might I add, is a fucking. I ended up with more hands on him. This must just be like this table because obviously it was two tabling.
Mm,
Because I've got like maybe 300 hands on him now, and these stats don't change. This is who Angry Doc is.
okay, monster knit.
Monster Nate doesn't buy in full, and
Yeah.
just does shit like this.
Um, I think I just flat hit because against Angry Doc, his let's just say you flatten red zone folds. I think Angry Doc is probably just piling it all in on any turn whatsoever. And there's with Ace King here and these stack sizes against Angry Doc, there is not a single turn card I'm folding to.
No,
It could
I
be the
agree.
six of clubs, the most connecting card there. And I quite like just flatting here, let red zone sort of, come along with some of his weaker, more speculative holdings. I don't think raising accomplishes much. I just like flatting.
That's what we
Yeah,
did.
both come along.
And then he just that easy
Okay.
call. I guess this is maybe
Yeah.
just let's laugh at Angry Doc, I guess.
Shit flush draw. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Ooh.
mean, but I don't
Ooh.
know. I mean, it's 12-11. I wouldn't expect. I mean, this is a standard defend versus a 2.5x for the likes of you and I all day, but I'm surprised it's a
Yeah.
standard defender for the fucking 12-11. Just like earlier when we had the 18-12 guy popping the 8-7 up under, popping the 8-7 suited up under the gun. I think I marked this as much as anything because it surprised me of like someone so nitty turning up
Yeah.
with that hand because I didn't
Yeah.
expect it. So that's something I would know. I was talking to Sam last night. I did a little review session with Sam, and I said you've got no colour tags on anyone, Sam, and you haven't got a note on anybody, and it's really important to take notes. And I explained to him that when we're taking notes, we don't take notes of the standard stuff. We take notes of the stuff that makes us fucking like do a double take when we see it, because that's the stuff that, if something happens that you were expecting, or someone turns up with the hand you weren't expecting, that's noteworthy. Someone just four bets your pre and goes bet shove up with aces. It's not remotely noteworthy, because most players do that. So I guess is why I've done this, is to remind myself to put a note on him that even though he's a fucking nit, he like defends this type of hands and then donks. This is super noteworthy, because in future we can just fucking pile on him when he does this with like top pair plus. So I would probably go and note this in future, saying, defend small suited connectors, overbet donks,
I mean, like,
blah blah blah.
It's a thing I've seen so often over the years, though, that when one of the things with really nitty players, I find, firstly, is that they just fucking go nuts post flop. Oh, finally, one of my 10% of hands has been dealt to me. I'm fucking going for it, whatever. So often I see players that are really nitty pre, but are actually just like idiot spew monkeys post flop, because they're just like, I'm really nitty. They should know that. They should fold to everything I do.
I've got a funny story about that. We were playing on Sky Home Games years ago when they first launched, when there was a UK poker forum, Eat My Stack it was called, and they had the whole home game group, and we used to play some 25 and L and stuff, and you couldn't have a HUD in home games. Don't know if you can now, but back then there was no HUD.
Okay.
And so this guy took a screenshot, and he just, as a joke, like put wrote like a HUD on him, fucking like the pen thing, and round me it was just a big red circle with nit spew in block capitals, because that's how he saw me, nit who spews. So you just summed up exactly the sort of player I, and maybe still am to an extent. So I know that's definitely a fucking thing, where they'll just nit for ages, and always they'll just do something completely out of fucking character for their stats, and nit spew is definitely a thing.
Because what is it? And sorry, the other thing, just with that particular hand there, is that also when the guy goes that size, when he donk overbets it, it's like, when does he ever do that with pocket sevens or pocket fives?
No, it's not happening.
When does he ever go for that size?
No.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, you've got your flush draw, let's run it then, shall we?
Yeah, so I think now I know this about him. I think Ace King then just becomes a raise on the flop, doesn't it? We don't need to, because he's not going to. If we know he's like overbet donking a hand as powerful as this, he's never folding it to a shove. So I think
I think
if it was a heads up pot with red zone in, I agree, we still call. But if this was heads up and red zone wasn't in the pot, next time he overbet donks into us and we've got top pair plus, we just put the rest in. There's only like going to be 25 bigs or so behind. We just put the rest in there, and then I guess. Yeah. Who knows? It doesn't really matter that much, because you're never going to play a big pot with this fellow, because he's never got one. He just doubles up and then rat holes and just carries on doing what he's doing.
What finding out on like stats, sort of HUD stats, and those kind of guys, like the really really nitty guys, is it's and that nit spew thing is it's so funny, because they'll be there with their 12% VPIP, and then you'll look at something like their one at showdown number, and their one at showdown number can sometimes be like under 50%. It's like, it's below the guys with the 28, the 30% VPIPs, purely because they just can't, they're just shit. They can't play post flop, and they just go, I'm going for it with everything, because I'm finally playing a hand.
You're not wrong. I do not disagree with that in the fucking slightest. Another Ace King. There's been one limp ISO from a total unknown. With 3-bet, I think sizing probably should be bigger, but because he's not fully stacked, I decided to go with that size. That was that size was normally I would like maybe 3x, maybe even go to 160, 100 blinds deep, because I think it's fine to do that. But I went this size because of his stack size, which could be a mistake. Maybe we just go to our normal 150, 160 anyway. I'm not sure what you think about that.
I don't know. I get confused when they've got these kind of stacks. I personally, I'm never going that size. I'm always going. Basically, I'm going like 150 to 160 every time, regardless of Kyle's stack.
Yeah, and that's probably why I put this in, just because of this one decision. I don't even remember the hand. I don't know what's going to happen. But I think it probably was what sizing do we use against these? Because it's a 5x. So it's already like it's not an over raise because he's limp, so there's nothing wrong with his sizing, but it's bigger than usual size, and he's got a smaller than usual stack. So I think it's a more unusual spot when it comes to picking a 3-bet size, because we have to assume he's a fish, because he's just playing a random stack size. But
Yeah.
again, it could be a tight fish, could be a loose fish. We just don't fucking know.
Yeah.
So this was
But, I
very
mean,
much just
'cause
a pre-flop sizing thing, I think.
yeah, I mean, out of position here, with a cash game, he's got no sort of death of tournament thing to factor in. Yeah, he shouldn't really be folding anything here. What is it? Yeah, he needs to put in 70 cents for a pot of 265. It's just like, his entire range gets enough equity to continue.
So yeah, so you think we should be putting more pressure on him than that, put him to a tougher test?
Yeah, because with your whole 3-bet range, your 3-bet range as an entirety makes a certain chunk of its money through getting some folds. And when you go that size,
Yeah, we're not getting folds.
If villain is thinking you shouldn't be getting any folds at all.
Yeah, I agree. I guess I just didn't want him to fold. Right, well, whatever. This is just... right, okay, second decision point. We're obviously just going with it here, are we? We've got the limp shove under the gun and then the snap call. I mean, there's no folding this, is there?
No, I mean,
obviously, we're far from in love with the sport.
Yeah.
Because it's just ace king when all said and done.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically... So it's great because you get the odds right in front of you. So you need to win this spot 33.9% of the time, and it's slightly grimmer, because having ace king, it certainly blocks party mind from having ace king, weighs in much more heavily towards some of the stuff that's going to have us absolutely crushed, like aces and kings, which is certainly, this is certainly a way that Wales like to play aces and kings. Also, it's slightly less yay because of Kyle's ISO here. What's his ISO range going to look like? Well, it's going to have some ace X and certainly some ace X and some king X in it.
And that's part of my concern.
We've got less that we can hit.
Even when party mind has queens, Kyle Turner could be blocking some of our outs. I think it's something to think about at least.
Yeah, there is that, but I mean, let's say Kyle has ace queen here, then, or ace jack, say, and party is doing this with queens. Well, it's only one of your outs that's blocked, and you're now getting such a good price that it is it goes in here, doesn't it? I think it has to go.
I certainly hope so. If it doesn't, I think we're just going to end the call. Oh, it didn't go in. Reggie, I thought I called. I honestly thought I was going to be calling there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it has to go in, but you're allowed to feel grumpy about it.
Yeah, and then it turns out we would have won, but that's neither here nor there. I am a fucking nitbag, aren't I? Folding kings, folding ace king. But I still produce nice graphs, so fuck the haters.
Yeah. Reg, you're not playing full ring anymore.
No, more's the pity. Right, I'm not sure how many. We can't have many more to go now. I'm surprised it's gone this fucking long because I'm aware that I've taken up a lot of your time already. So we've raised.
I ain't got much going on this call.
That's a fair point. It's a very fair point. And neither have I, truth be told. So this is one of the boards we talked about earlier where I'm presuming I'm just checking my entire range on this flop. Although multi-way, do we mix more bets in because it's multi-way? People are going to be less likely to bluff or value bet thinly because it's just how it works in multi-way pots, isn't it? You just need a stronger hand to bet with. Because it's multi-way, should we bet? I'm pretty sure I'm going to check here. I don't remember the hand at all. I'm pretty sure I'll probably check, but should we be betting because it's multi-way and not heads up?
I don't know. Is the short answer. My thought process goes off at sort of like two different tangents here. One, you kind of you feel more. You feel more like you want and need to protect your hand when there's more live cards out there, when there's more opponents out there, and another thing as well that kind of makes me think, oh, well, actually, fuck it. Maybe even though, in theory, even if it's just heads up, in theory, if I'm supposed to be checking this ball with a particularly high frequency, maybe I just say fuck it because I look at both of these stack sizes and go, well, they're not auto-reloading. Chances are they ain't exactly going to be wizards. There will be some good short stackers out there, but they're still few and far between. So I kind of think, well, fuck it. Do I just start piling it in for value anyway because I think my opponents are weaker players? But So yeah, I have that countering the theoretically this isn't really our board. We probably do want to kick this off with a check. I don't know how it changes multi-way though.
I think if I check it, looking back now on review, it's one of the things where when you're playing in live play, instinctively not my board check. But I think now looking at it, I'd probably rather see myself bet, and I'd be pleased if I did bet, and probably quite big.
Mm.
You know, if I'm going to bet here, there's no point making it small. So if we're going to bet, I'd like to see us go at least like 70 cents. What do we check? It's just disappointing. And I think, like I say, I think that's an autopilot live play. It's not our board check, but I think given the things you've said, and I agree with them, that we probably just want to be value betting here and starting to build the pot, I guess.
Yeah.
And now we face a 20-cent bet. I mean, presuming we have to raise now. I don't know if I do or not because I don't remember the hand. This could be another shameful piece of Reg Nittery coming on. But I think we probably have to raise now, don't we, against that size?
I don't know. I think it's different when you're the pre-flop aggressor and you're then facing a very small size float bet, especially on this kind of board, because like the buttons range is way stronger on this board than your range is because they don't have the big overpairs that you do here. So the range is more. They have. Their range as a whole contains more pocket threes, more pocket fives, more pocket nines than yours does.
But for this size,
So
does it not contain an awful lot of nonsense as well, though, for this size?
yeah, and you can get some value. And yeah, I do. Personally, I'm probably just check calling. If I'm checking flop, I don't think I'm check raising here, especially when I'm not closing the action.
Well, I did because I clearly suck at poker, but I still stand by. I think we should lead, but I think when he bets this small, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to disagree with you here. I think we probably want to be raising. I mean, against an 18-15, maybe not as much because I don't think he's going to make as many passive mistakes. So maybe if this guy was say 40/12, a raise is going to be more preferable than it is against. And yeah, fine, the guy's not topping up, but he's obviously not a moron either because he's he's
No,
he's
I
playing
mean, actually, yeah,
tight.
because I hadn't even looked at his HUD stats there, but yeah, if he's an 18-15, I dislike the check raise even more.
I
because
do now.
What's his flattening range on the button here? It's fucking small pairs, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. If he was 40-10 or 40-12, I think check raising has infinitely more value than it does against this guy. So let's see how bad it goes. And then he just folds anyway. And this guy, who we didn't expect to come along, just fucking calls. So this hand's completely fucked up on many levels. I mean, I guess we're just bombing this turn now. We've check raised the flop. I guess there's no reason to do anything else, is there?
I don't know. I mean, it's 6-7 gets there. It could be in there with like, it's not a complete. It's not a complete brick of a turn card by any stretch, is it?
No, it's not. It's not a complete brick, but on balance,
and
I don't think
it
it's
goes back to that thing. Yeah, it goes back to that thing that we were talking about earlier, where a slightly different situation here, but you can apparently one can have some sort of check raises and then check turn spots. Maybe this is one of them. I don't know.
Yeah, could be. This feeds into another thing that we talked to Sam about last night, because we were talking about hands through the prism of Doug Polk's post-sort game plan, talking about like category ones, category. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And I said that he was like he had a hand where it was a slam dunk value bet but small, and he made it really big. And I said, you got streameritis, mate. I said, all the streamers do this. They make a fucking good hand and they start shitting the pants with it. And I'm not saying that you're doing that here exactly, but you're like, the 6-7's got there. I'm like, yeah, so fucking what? That's my opinion of the 6. Yeah, and I think like I've seen not so much Craig, because I think Craig's got a very different attitude to poker than you and Ryan has. Craig's got a lot more just fuck it, YOLO with him, that's for sure. But you and Ryan, I've never seen so many people flop really strong hands and then say, "Oh fuck," it cracks me up. It really cracks me up. Like, "Oh fuck, I've got the nuts. Now what?"
If
what
you knew how badly I'd run lately.
So yeah, I mean, you seen the 6-7 then, and that seeing it just tickled me. You're right, it does get there. And you're right, he will have it some of the time, but because it's a double gut shot on the flop, isn't it? But he's got the 6-7, fucking good for him. Have my money. I guess that's my attitude. We bet he calls. And then the river, do we bet for value now, jam for value, or do we check and allow him to bluff with what could still be like a hell of a lot of misdraws?
It's weird. It's a kind of a bricky river, isn't it? Because he shouldn't really ever have any two pairs there. Yeah, on either on flop or turn. Maybe 5-4. I don't know. But so it's basically the three on the river doesn't improve your hand really in any way. Whereas on other boards it could do, because you now sort of trump all the two pair combos that your opponent has. Whereas on this board, did he really ever have any two pairs?
I think about this hand because
Yeah.
it's a spot I find myself in a lot, where I get to rivers and I'm not sure if I do too much bluff catching this, but I wouldn't be surprised if I check here, because I think a lot of the times when I've just got an overpair, I will go bet check when lots of obvious draws have missed, and I think I sometimes miss too much value, because I think quite often, especially in the micro stakes, even if he did have a hand like XX of hearts here, quite often they just don't give a fuck and give up anyway. It's like it's the amount of times I've seen people just give up with missed draws and not bet. It makes me wonder: is my default line of bet check when draws miss a worse line than just going bet for the times that they've got 9x or pocket 10s or pocket 8s that will call a bet? So I guess my question here is my standard line of, even though we didn't do it this time, is my standard line of bet check here better or worse than just going bet?
I don't know. I
Neither do
like
Neither do I,
both.
sir.
I'm a kindred spirit in. I quite often give it the old sort of bet check. With a view to check calling, let them sort of go for it with all their misdraws now. I mean, I wonder again though. I think we touched on this earlier. Maybe is this one of those spots where you do want to bet, but you want to bet really small? To get some crime value from sort of the 9x, which might not call it off if you go bombs away and basically put them in for the rest, but also might induce some spew raises, thinking, oh, he's really capped when he goes this size.
Yeah, and also 9x, I think if we check, 9x is going to check back with a very high frequency too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think there's obviously, if we bet, we're never folding out. If we what's in the pot 6, if we bet 150, we're not going to fall for like $4 more, are we? If he jams, although I suspect we're probably going to be not a great spot when he does jam. But I still think there's no block folding. It's just block for the crying to get the extra crying calls, I guess, isn't it?
I think so, but I think also the thing I do like about that size is I do think it does induce some spew when you go like really small. It kind of it throws them. They go, oh, hang on, I might have fold equity here. So yeah, I'm never bet folding.
Yeah, who was it? It was the other day. It could have been Con or somebody else. Somebody was advocating. It might have been on the stream actually. I'm not sure, but somebody whose opinion I respect was advocating sometimes betting like 10-15% in these spots to specifically to induce a spew. Obviously you're missing value from the stuff that just calls, but obviously if you check people, I don't know if people just check back, but like just putting a really tiny bet in will sometimes make someone do something they would not have done versus a check almost.
No, absolutely, yeah, because it's like, it's like, what is it? There's 638 in the middle now. There now, imagine, let's say you've got your misdraw. You're Andrew, and you've got your misdraw, and you're a bit tilted and annoyed by that already. And Reggie decides to bet 80 cents on the river, and you're like, well, I can't give it to him for 80 cents. I can't possibly give it to him for 80 cents. But I haven't got anything.
Yeah. Whereas if you bet maybe $2, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't. Then they just be like, oh fuck it, I fold. Yeah, I like it. I'm going to start toying with more super fucking small river bets when I think people can then specifically to induce spew, and I accept that I'm going to miss value from 9x doing that. But unless you toy with these things, you never know. If you just never do stuff because you just don't do them, how are you going to work out what might work really well against a population? Because I agree. I think if I'm going to small bet here, I wouldn't want to go 25%. I'd want a really small bet. I'd want to be like anything from 60 to $1 tops, because I think that gives you the best chance to induce a spew. If you make it too large on your small bet, they're not going to they're not going to think
Hmm.
I can make him fold. So I think,
Yeah.
I'm going to start toying with some more 10 and 15% river bets, I think, because I quite like that.
Because that's something perhaps not quite that small, but that's something I've been doing a little bit of here and there. But I've also been like doing it with some bluffs as well, and I've been pleasantly surprised at like how many times I've managed to get
See, I haven't got the
a,
balls to do it as a
complete
bluff yet.
complete airball through
But
when I've gone like 20% on the river.
I think if I find I'm getting folds when I'm doing it,
Yeah,
I'll be more inspired to do it with plus two.
yeah,
But I think I'm going to have to do it with just my value range first. And then if I
yeah.
start seeing folds, then I'll be like, well, I can certainly pop some bluffs in here now. But yeah, I want to see people folding before I start doing it as a bluff.
Yeah.
And he just had pocket sixes, whatever, and probably should have bet the river. King Queen, we've 3-bet versus an unknown. I don't do this that often, but I don't love flatting King Queen off on the button either. I mean, against some players I will. Against unknowns, I probably lean towards folding it more than 3-bet. I don't know what's made me 3-bet it here. Maybe I'm just keep feeling me oats. I don't know, because this isn't a typical line for me.
Mm.
I'll do all three things. I'll fold, I'll call, I'll raise, but 3-bet's the least likely of the three things that I would do. So I've no idea why I've done it. No idea why the hand's coming up, but I guess we'll soon see. I think this is where we get spicy at some point. I'm not sure though. So he checks. I don't know why I fucking bet there. Oh yeah, I bet because it's a 3-bet pot and it's good for my range. So that's why I
Yeah.
bet.
I think I think on Ace King 3 Rainbow 3-bet pot, you're the guy in position. I think this is like whatever your two hole cards are. I think this is almost like
Yes.
a mandatory bet situation.
I completely agree. And we're happy with the around quarter pot, I guess.
Yeah.
He calls, turns a 9 of spades, he checks. I decide, because I've got showdown value, I'd probably double barrel if I had nothing, but because we've got showdown value, I decide to check back. I guess that's probably okay, because he's not calling a second barrel with worse, so there's fuck all to protect against, really.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I guess
I
if he now leads the
agree.
river, we've got a decision, haven't we?
Yeah.
Queen on the river, he checks. I don't know if this is just me missing value. I've no idea why this hand's in, because I guess it's just a slam dunk value bet now.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
If I check this back, I'm just going to be very sad with myself. We do bet. He called. I've no idea where I put that hand in. Literally, I've no clue. That must have been a mistake.
Interesting size. Interesting size on the river there.
So what would you have
Super
done?
small.
It's very small, isn't it? It's like 1/5
28.
pot, something like that.
Yeah. It's like super tiny. I think. Well, I wouldn't have gone that small.
No, I think like looking back now, I'm gonna assume that is ace X, and probably should be trying to target ace 10, ace Jack, things like that. And I think ace Jack and ace 10 call are much larger bet than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Basically, I think on this river, I think you're probably looking at, especially when he checks over to you again. I think probably anywhere from like 50 to 75% pop.
Yeah, maybe that's why I put it in, because I didn't even notice what size I made the river. I was just trying to skip to the next hand because I thought it was an irrelevant hand. But yeah, I think in hindsight that river bet is way too small, because I'm targeting specifically ace Jack and ace 10, and I think they're going to call a lot more. I guess I'm making it that size because I'd fucking hate betting bigger and getting raised, but that's not a reason not to use the correct size. I think if we bet like 60 to 75% pot here and get raised, I think we have an annoying but comfortable fold, I presume.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
so
agree with that.
I think that's me just being a bit scared of cat on the river, I think, and probably why I put it in. Because I think, it's definitely a bet, and my bet is too small. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reggie, you are a fuckwit. Okie dokie, next one is King of Hearts. We've had a 5x open from what, at the time, he was tighter than that. Now he's just like a bad reg, 23-14, just bad reg territory, isn't it? Smallish 3-bet, it's generally passive. So I can't remember what I knew about the time. I thought he was a little bit nittier than this at the time. Maybe his stats were much nittier. I mean, I'm presuming we're just going to 3-bet still, though. I'm not sure where the decision point comes in this hand. We 3-bet to 150, he calls. All right, so we have this flush draw. Now, because it's a 3-bet pot, are we more inclined to want to bet here because we still have all the aces, kings, queens? Or are we going for a check? And if we're checking, are we check ripping or are we check calling?
I
I think with ace king off here or ace king any other suit, it's a no-brainer. It's just a check. But because we have hearts specifically, can we pop that into a very rare betting range, or are we just wanting to check this flop with 100% of range?
Honestly, with this specific combo, I'm betting, and I'm just trying to decide what size. I might just to go back a street first there. Actually, if I'm certainly betting on here because there's just too much equity. Your hand's got too much equity not to be betting for value, even though you're still looking at ace high at this point. And I might be inclined to actually go larger there. Happy to get it all in on the flop if need be. I think I quite like the idea of going a larger size on the flop and just shipping turn.
So this is the street you wanted. So he's 5x.
But yeah.
Would you have done something different?
Yeah, it's just really just a question about your 3-bet size, because let's say this guy had gone like more conventional. Let's say he'd gone 3x. What size would you be 3-betting here at the big blind if cutoff would open to 3 bigs?
Yeah, 11 or 12, one of the two. There's no reason between the two. Sometimes I go 12, sometimes I go 11. It's just very much whatever. There's no
like
reasoning for it. Yeah.
I would never be 3.5 to 4x.
It would never be less than 10. It would never be 9. Occasionally 10. Usually 11 or 12.
Yeah. Okay. So then, why, when he's 5x, have you only gone 3x? Why haven't you made it like nearer to $2?
I guess it's because he's already put a decent amount of money in. That's a good point. I won't be careful how I word this. I think once you start getting towards like 20 big blinds, you're almost in like 4-bet territory, aren't you, in terms of sizing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but does that matter? I mean, ace king suited, you're quite happy in 4-bet territory anyway.
Probably not. No, it's probably a leak of mine because I think this is the biggest I would go here. You know, it's like, well, he's made it bigger, so I don't need to get the pot the size I want it to. I guess it's to do with like how big do I want the pot to be on the flop, I guess. And because he's already made it bigger, I'm like, well, I'll just make it this size because this is the size I'm used to seeing the flop in 3-bet pots. So it's maybe something to do with that. Just like, I'm used to seeing the pot in 3-bet pots being anything from 22 to 30 bigs. If I make it more, then we're going to be in a spot I'm less familiar with in terms of stack to pot ratio. But yeah, I've never really put any thought into it. That's just something subconsciously I do. And now you've asked me the question, I think that's probably the most likely reason that I'm not making it. I mean, even 150 seems big to me for a 3-bet. 15 big blinds seems big to me for a 3-bet. So it's probably just like I can't go much bigger with my 3-bet than this. So that's why I haven't done it.
Oh, sorry. Hold on just a second, Rich. Do you want a coffee? That'd be lovely, thank you. Charles?
Oh, how nice.
How nice,
My fucking wife would rather fucking spill a hot kettle on herself than offer me a coffee. If I ask for a coffee, I'll get, you know where the kettle is. I'll have one too. Well, no, you fucking won't, love, because I'm not having one now. So I'll just spite myself and not have one. So going back to your question, I think it's probably just my not wanting to make my 3-bets too big, but you're right. It shouldn't. If he's made it that size, we should stick with that. Well, no, I'm 3.5 to 4xing, so I'm 3.5 to 4xing. So it's a good question, and I didn't have a very good answer, but it was an honest answer because there's no point making it up.
No, it throws us, doesn't it? When like, what the fuck is a 5x open pre all about?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you sort of go, oh, hang on, is it like, is he that much of a fish rig that he's like, I've got aces, let's go big this time?
And you sort of, again, it's a hand. I only played this hand last night, but I don't fucking remember it. But I think we said I think I agree with you. Probably we should be betting it, whether I do or not. Whether I've just diverted to, it's not my board. I'm not betting. But I think this is an occasion where we can deviate from that with this exact hand and not worry that much about being exploited. But I did go with the check, unsurprisingly. He checks back. Turn a king. Now we have to start betting.
Absolutely.
Which we do.
I'd prefer to go larger there. Because it's yeah, when it's going to check, it's basically it's such a strong card for your range. So you have the right on that card to go super big. Villain, of course, can have some King X, but you could, yeah. Let's say you got, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of sort of other three bets you may have here that have sort of taken this line but whiffed. I don't know. Let's say you got Ace Jack of something. let's just say you got Ace Jack of spades here, maybe.
Hello, Mrs. Juice. You're a good lady.
Bridge says hello. Thank you. Yeah. Anyway, so I don't know. Yeah. Say like you're going to turn a hand like Ace Jack into a bluff here on this turn. You'd probably want to start going larger now with your bluff hands here. And the king is such a strong card for you for all of these kind of hands, especially when you check this flop. You're going to have ace king a lot here. I just think basically on this turn, if you're taking this line, I think your whole range is probably going to want to be more weighted towards a larger size.
I agree. I think what's happened here is I've diverted to my flop sizing, but it really fucks us up jamming the river because the pot's not going to be big enough. I think I've just gone with it. Right, okay. I'd go 1/3 pot on the flop with the king at blah blah, and I haven't, at the time I haven't been thinking, which is a big mistake because it's something I usually don't, fail to consider, is like what's the stack to pot ratio going to be on the river? Because obviously we want to bet this turn and be able to shove the river. And if he calls here, we're going to be left with like 1.25x pots on the river. Whereas if we made it even just $1.80, we'd have like pot left. So yeah, I think this is very much just just bet small here. It's a good card for my range, bet small here, but that hasn't taken into consideration. We checked the flop, and we need to get money in the pot to allow us to shove. So he calls, and then I guess we just have what the fuck have I done? Maybe this is what you've been talking about, betting small. This is a clusterfuck, this hand, but there's no shame in my game. This is just if I'd bet bigger on the turn, I would never do this.
It's a weird one because the 7 is way better for him when you've taken this line and gone small on the turn.
But if he raises, we're still not folding, are we?
Or are you? No, probably not.
No. I think this is a hangover from the turn. If I'd bet properly on the turn, I would never have used this size on the river because I would just have been identified the jam spot. So my guessing at the time, and I genuinely have no idea what he's got. I don't even remember this hand. My guess is I've done this specifically to induce because there's no other reason why I would do this. So what we just talked about the previous hand, I'm guessing it must be why I've chose this sizing because it's like 10% pot, which is what I said in the last hand. If I was going to go for inducing on the river, it would be at the 10% pot sizing. So even though I don't remember this hand, I've no idea if he raises, calls, or whatever. I guess this river size especially is why I've put this hand in. And he just calls, and the same hand, whatever. Wasn't that exciting? That's just 2 nits. Fucking arsing round. Right, I've noticed now because the thing's we've got 3 hands to go, I think. So we'll I think we've got 3 hands to go anyway. This black, we have. It's the 3rd last time.
That was a fun hand.
Yeah, and it wasn't very proud of it. So we'll move on and hope we do better on this one. So here we've got we've opened under the gun. Fisher's called. This guy's put the squeeze in. I think it's just do we 4-bet or call to keep the fish in situation. I guess there's no other decision to make. It's obviously not even I fold in this spot. It's just do we call to keep boomeranging, or do we just 4-bet now to try and either take it down or just get the money in?
I think I'm 4-betting here.
Yeah, I think I probably will too. I am a big fan though of keeping fish in pots where possible.
I'd be way more inclined to take that route if I had aces or kings.
Yep.
But with ace king, I think I much prefer the 4-bet route.
So this could be a very bog standard boring hand. No, we just call. So obviously I was trying to keep the fish in. I am obsessed with keeping fish in pots, by the way. And I do. You probably see me do it a lot on Sky. There's lots of hands I just do not 3-bet with because if there's fish behind, just say you raise under the gun, and I've got queens, kings, or aces, and there's a specific fish that hasn't acted yet, it's very rare I'll three bet you because I don't want to. I mean, I three bet the fish is probably going to go out, and then you're probably going to go out too, or whatever. And I'm big on keeping fishing, and it sometimes gets you in messy situations, but I think overall, keeping fishing rather than blasting them out of the pot. It used to fucking bug me when you'd be playing with certain regs, and you'd raise fish, or they'd three bet behind you with fish still to go. I'm like, fuck off, mate. Just let the fucking fish in the pot. You've got a good hand. I get it. Who are you going to get value from? You're going to get value from
Yeah.
fucking Slim Soul in the big blind, or you're going to get value from fucking Nitbag under the gun who's just going to fucking four pocket tens to you. And that Poker King used to be a cunt for that. I don't know where he's disappeared to. He's like, I mean, I remember I used to love playing with him.
I haven't seen him in years.
No, I used to love
But
playing
yeah.
with him because he was action in a very bad reg way, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, it really bores my piss when I see regs three betting with two or three fish. There's only one fish behind, not so bad. If there's two or three fish behind, don't three bet, mate. Just let us all see your flock with the fish, and let's one of us fucking stack him. And stop being.
Reg, are you I don't know if you've ever watched any of his content, but he's been doing some streams lately. Duesenberg123.
No, I'm not fond of him. I didn't mind. I watched some of the upswing stuff, and then he got so behind the, let's crawl up Doug Polk's ass and fucking overly hate on Daniel Negreanu when I've got no good fucking reason to. I kind of got a bit turned off him. Him and that fucking Irish prick, he can fucking get in the bin as well. Fucking Dave Lappin.
Okay. Yeah.
Looks like he fucking lives in a squat, but apparently he's a fucking higher stakes poker player. Nah, I liked him, then I didn't like him, and then I like him, and then he titles his streams like 500 Zoom for the boys and spends it OYZ, and I just think, yeah, you can fuck off now, mate, because I'm not into 500 Zoom for the boys spelt incorrectly. I'm not into just piling on somebody because you want to ass kiss, and then all of a sudden he just gets himself an upswing jog. In my opinion, because he's ass kissed. So yeah, fuck Gazzy B. But anyway, continue, sir, because you're going to say something nice about him, aren't you?
Well, no, I'm fonder of him than you are, but yeah, his streams are decent. I can't say I watch them intently, but yes, you're quite right. He's the latest addition to the coaching roster in the Upswing Lab, as you well know I'm a member of, and I watched his first video literally a day or two back, and his first video was it was a play and explain. So it's basically he was playing 500 Zoom and talking through his. In fact, I think he might have done it like recorded a session and then like pressed play and played it back and paused it, and he's like, right, this is what I'm doing here, and this is what I'm doing X, Y, Z. What I will say, actually, hats off. Really like his style as a coach. It's interesting seeing him sort of in there compared to the Twitch thing, because it's a very different sort of arena. And actually, as a coach, from what little I've seen, I've really liked. But that's not the point. My point is that literally one of the first things I saw from him, and is, like I say, he was playing 500 Zoom, and I think it was something like, I think it was like under the gun opens, he's in the cutoff. And he, along with many guys now, in that pool in poker, in cash games, are basically taking a view that when they're in like mid position or cutoff, they are like three betting their entire continuing range, which is like quite a common thing now. And anyway, so he folds around him in the cutoff, and he basically says exactly that. He said, right now, under normal circumstances, my entire continuing range here is played as a three bet. Except this time, there's an absolute whopper sat in the big blind waiting to come along. So I'm going to flat here to keep him in. So even the 500 Zoom wizards are very much in with you there.
Yeah, I think you've got to. I mean, if you're playing in a Zoom pool, it matters much less because there's much less fish around. It's more like when you're on a site like Sky and there's you, two other regulars, and three fish. And your job as a regular there isn't to fucking cut another regular's win rate. Your job is just, you're not colluding, but it's just don't get in each other's way and let's just chop these fish up whilst paying as fucking little rake and having as few headaches as possible. I mean, you and I have gone to war from time to time, but we've rarely gone to war, at the expense of like making a fish fall out. We've just gone to war because we're just two nits like fucking thalidomized, just flapping our little fucking hands at each other, try to. Look, I am fucking tough. I am tough, but deep down we're not. But it's very rare. Like if there's a fish in the pot, I've not gone out of my way to make your life difficult, and it doesn't feel to me like you have. And there's lots of other regs that are like that, and they kind of get it. And then there's the other ones who just don't get it, and all they want to do is be the big fucking swinging dick and be like, oh no, fucking hell, blah. But you could trap them all day. You know, if I'm on the button and the fish is opened under the gun, and I've got like your Larsons and a couple of others in the big blind, I'm just flatting all the time there because you just know more often than, well, not more often than not, that's not fair to say, but at a higher frequency than they should, they're just getting out of line because they can't fucking help themselves. And it's pretty fucking irritating because, you know, the job on Sky isn't battle with. If you want to battle with regulars, there's plenty of other sites out there. The job on Sky is get soft tables to get the money as easy as you can whilst paying as little rake as possible because the rake's already fucking outrageous. And some of them just don't fucking get it. So, anyways, that's by the by. So we've got this Ace King. He's 3 betters. We've just flatted.
Yeah.
He's checked. I do remember this one now. We check back. 2 of hearts on the turn. He bets half pot. We have an incredibly standard call, and no one's folding here, are they?
No.
And then the 3 on the river. He does that. I don't put him on any 5x whatsoever. I don't put him on any of that board. And we beat stuff like Ace Queen, Ace Jack. So do we ever call here or do we just fold?
I'm incredibly inclined to call here because I think. Yeah, I think he checks very few overpairs. Yeah, he can. Ace 5 suited isn't a terrible bluff squeezing hand here at the big blind, but on a 4-6 kind of flop when he's just got shit ace high, and big range advantage. I think if he's got ace 5, I think he's going to be c-betting it on that particular flop, with a pretty high frequency. So yeah, I think he's got otherwise he's got like fuck all 5x. I mean that's. Maybe might have 5s. Yeah, 5. If you have pocket 5s is like the only thing that makes any sense at all. But I can't imagine he's squeezing that with like much frequency at all. Yeah, basically, I'm calling all day here. I'm feeling quite happy about it. It looks like utter bullshit.
Would you call if the river was a 4, so therefore you're going to be chopping a lot more? I think that's like the interesting part of it. I think it's a pretty easy call here because we beat Ace King and Ace Jack, which he might be bluffing with. So he beat Ace Queen and Ace Jack. But if the river's a 4, so we're chopping with all these ace highs, are you more inclined to fold then? Bearing in mind you can only win half the pot most of the time.
No, I don't think so.
No?
I think I
would have. I called here, but I think if the board was double paired, I maybe would have folded just because to me we're only ever winning half the pot. I think we can win the whole pot here.
Yeah, but
I think we can only win half the pot if the board's double paired.
Yes, but then at the same time, you've still you still only need 30%. So when facing this size, so I think this line, it looks really fucking odd to me. So yeah, I think I'm calling on a 3 or a 4.
I mean, I actually quite liked his line when I reviewed it. I was like, that's fine. I mean, I guess we could see bet that flop, but again, it's a board that just people are checking a lot on. And I actually like the way he played this. I didn't like losing the fucking pot, of course. When I saw it, I kind of thought, obviously he can certainly play his overpairs this way, but because we have an ace and a king, etc., he hasn't got as many of them. But I kind of thought I'm going to be beating a bit, but when he's bluffing, we win the whole pot. And yeah, I don't hate my call at all, and I don't hate his line either, even though I think he could definitely see bet the flop too.
Yeah, I don't love his line. I'd much prefer his line if he had. I'd much prefer his line if he has aces there, because
they're less vulnerable to the overcards, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, they need fuck all protection, and you are going to have less ace X, less ace high showdown, which is going to start finding more bluffs. So like I if I'm villain there, I much prefer him c-betting his queens here on the flop. If he's going to be checking over pairs, kings a bit, yeah, but absolutely aces. I quite like checking aces with some frequency there, much more than I do queens.
Yep.
But I don't hate the way you play the hand at all. Although I'm kind of for betting, I think every fucking time pre-flop. But then
I would have lost more money then.
under those
So there,
circumstances, I'd have just lost more money.
yeah,
So
so there, fuck off. My shitter line saved me money. So there, let's just think about the results and not the actual overall.
that's all that matters, isn't it? Yeah. You played the hand perfectly this time. Well done, Rich.
Right, okay, 7-8 suited. Let's move on. So we've flatted, called in the bad regulars flatted. Someone said the other day we should never flat out the small blind. I used to subscribe to that theory. I don't think I do necessarily subscribe to it now. I think there's more flatting out of the big blind than there was maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I don't think as many players have as big a hard on for 3-betting out the small blind as he used to. I think it was Camel said, we should just always 3-bet or 4 from the small blind. I think that's quite narrow thinking these days. And I don't have a wide flatting range, but I certainly flat, some amount out of the small blind.
Yeah, I'm still much more down with the kind of like 3-bet pretty much all you continue out of the small blind. By and large, I think a huge amount of it depends upon the nature of the game and the nature of the player in the big blind, because it's a fucking disaster every time you get squeezed, and it's really hard to kind of have much balance there at the small blind. You kind of when you look down at your super premiums, it's really hard.
That's fair.
Do you know what? I'm going to flat my aces this time because I need to have some good hands here.
No, I'm never doing that. My flats at the small blind are usually pocket pairs I don't want to 3-bet, and then some like decent suited connector stuff, like probably 8-9 suited through Queen Jack suited, maybe even King Queen suited. Maybe I don't even 3-bet that. So yeah, I'm aware that my my small blind flatting range is very face up as good, but not premium, which probably isn't a good thing in terms of being balanced. But again, in these games, there just isn't that much squeezing and 3-betting, so I think I can get away with it. I probably wouldn't do it at higher stakes because I think you get away with it less the higher you play, the more 3-betting and squeezing you're going to encounter. But in these games, I think it's I don't know. It's not something I like doing anyway. Anyways, we flop a bad open ender. Check. We super standard bet, I'm assuming. Call. Turn brick. He checks. I barrel again here, if I remember correctly, which I think is probably going to be fine. Don't know what you think.
I think this is one of the worst hands you're going to have in your range here, so it's absolutely a barrel situation.
And river, he checks. Do you empty the clip here? And my thoughts were, he can have lots of diamonds that I was high carded, lots of pair plus straight draw, like 10 jacks, queen 10s, stuff like that. And I think I went with a bet here, and I think I went with an over bet, and I don't remember if it worked or not, but that's the spot. If we do bet this river, do we go small? Do we over bet? Do we use a normal size? What would your third barrel size be here?
Funnily enough, actually, before you mentioned what you did, I was just staring at his stack size going, oh, actually, no, is that too much? I hadn't necessarily clocked you started quite deep at first. My initial reaction was, I quite like jamming my entire stack here.
So if this was, say, $7 effective rather than 13 or $8 effective, you just pile 8 into 3. And I wouldn't hate it. I absolutely wouldn't hate it.
Yeah. No, I quite like that because, I mean, Queen Jack is a pretty reasonable hand, I guess, for the small blind to be flatting if he's a sort of a tightish sort of reg. But I kind of feel like he's going to be trying to get. I expect the check raise to come in at some point with Queen Jack. Probably on the turn when you go larger. Likewise, I think most of his sets are going to be check raising at some point. I think he looks really capped on the river. To probably like King X type hands. He might have King Queen off, that sort of thing. King Jack maybe, and you can absolutely have all of the nut combos here. You can say you'll be opening all your Queen Jacks here. So yeah, I basically, if I'm not giving up, which I don't like giving up here, because again, I think like you're absolutely at the bottom of your range. I like going massive on the river.
So you think it's an overbet spot? Because I think I overbet. I'm not sure. I didn't
Yeah.
overbet. I went with that size. Maybe that's why I put it in, because I think it probably should have been an overbet, and I chose not to. I don't like that size. I much agree with you. I think jamming at this step's too big, but I think overbetting to 5+ is much better than this size I've chose.
Yeah.
As it happens, he folded anyway, so it's kind of irrelevant. But I think I probably identified that as an overbet spot, and then didn't do it, which I think is probably why I've marked the hand. Yeah, it's definitely an overbet spot, because we, like I said, we have all the sets, we have all the Jack Queens, we have like a significant nut advantage as the hands played out. So in that spot, when we got nut advantage against a capped range, then overbetting just makes sense. But that said, if you had the Jack Queen, would you still go with the overbet then, or would you only be overbetting with bluffs and betting a size that allowed him to call when you actually had it?
I think what I like here is I like going with the value part of my range. I like going massive overbet with Jack Queen. And certainly, and definitely smaller with like pocket 10s and pocket 9s, I think.
And like stuff like King 10, 10, 9, that sort of thing.
Yeah. And of course, when you do go for a large overbet, of course, you can have more bluffs. You can be more weighted towards bluffs, because Villain in theory needs to call like way less of his range when you go for huge bet sizes. So it's okay to have, and because you're going to have all the Queen Jack off. That's 16 combos there, or 16 combos of Queen Jack already that you can have here. So you can find what you can have. You can sort of find quite a few bluffs to go alongside that, and I think I go massive with that. I'm just trying to decide what I would do with pocket kings though. I think I go smaller with pocket kings as well.
Yeah, I think you have to go small with pocket kings, because it blocks too much of the stuff he can call with, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I agree. I think it definitely should be an overbet spot on the river. I guess at the time I was thinking he's probably not folding a king, and I guess this size was aimed at trying to make him fold these like 9 and 10x that had a straight draw too, like Queen 9, Jack 9, Jack 10, Queen 10. I guess I was specifically targeting trying to make them fold, thinking he's never folding a king. But overall, I think we go bigger and try and make him fold a king as well. So even though it worked, I don't think we chose the right size there.
Yeah.
Last hand.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
This is one you wouldn't often find in a Reggie-Time compendium, isn't it? 7-3 suited. Camel said this isn't even an open on the button. I'm not sure. I think I said yesterday, after my first couple of sessions, my button raise first in was too low. So I think I went a bit potty on my last 2 sessions on just finding more opens of anything that was like the same colour or the same suit. And this probably is too wide, but
it is too wide, Reg.
Yeah, is it? Fair enough. I'm not going to try and justify it. I've explained the reasons for doing it. It just is what it is. It's too wide. Well, anyways, it's not too wide when that happens, is it? In your face, juice and knit.
Well, that showed me.
That showed you. Let's just think about results, shall we? And if you never open the 3-7, you can't flop trips as often.
Well, I mean, I hope this top level play continues. I'd like to see min bet for flop and turn, please.
Let's see what I do. I do go small, 1/3 pot. He raises. So what are you doing? This is your first decision point. Are you just flatting, or are you putting a small 3-bet in? I don't think there's any big 3-bet in here. I think it's call almost all the time with some very, very small 3-bets sprinkled in, but usually call.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I mean, he shouldn't. It's he looks like a reg from those the small sample of HUD stats you got there. I also the 12.5. That's the 3-bet number,
Yes,
isn't it? You got
but
there.
again, it's
So
probably
again,
1 in 8,
right,
I'd
so
imagine, is it?
I know, yeah,
4 in 32.
no, 4 and 30, but yeah, it suggests he's not shy to be 3-betting. And as we were discussing earlier, small blind versus button is probably, even if some people are reining it in, it's still probably going to be one of the most 3-bet situations
Yep,
in,
I
in,
agree.
in in six max. So yeah, I expect him to like hardly ever have pocket jacks here. So what does his value range look like? And in that case, maybe, do you ever like? I'm just thinking like of all the 3x that you can have here, you should have like more 3x than the small blind should. So this is actually like better for you, really. You should never really have jacks, and you shouldn't have very much 3x at all. Whereas you can have more 3x, like you can have king 3 suited here, for example. He certainly shouldn't. So I'm just trying to think, like, yeah, you have a 3x, you shouldn't, but does some of your 3x want to come back over the top again, or do you just want to flat all of your 3x here? Like, do you want to flat it here with 7-3, but raise it with king 3 and ace 3, or or just flat the lot?
Yeah, I think this goes back to what we talked about earlier with that queen 10. When facing small c bets, we should have more like thinner value raises, and that's my concern here, that he is like maybe check raising a hand like jack 10 suited, and then he just will fold it if we apply more pressure. I think he's going to have
Yeah,
some value here, but not enough that wants to continue versus a 3-bet.
I think he can well be doing this with hands like pocket fives.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's it. Yeah. But because I mean that's actually sort of a perfectly legitimate play against that sizing in such a wide range situation. So, I basically I think if you ran this into solvers are finding check raises on these kind of boards with pocket pairs underneath the jack.
That makes sense because you have to find some raises, and there's just not many natural
Yeah,
raises on this board. There's just almost no
exactly.
natural raises, so you've got to find some unnatural ones. So I went with the
Yeah.
call. He then bet the turn. I mean, we could raise here, or we could just call again. I mean, there's nothing to be scared of course. I mean, obviously, if he's got us coolered, then we're going to lose all our money anyway.
Yeah.
I still don't see much reason to raise. Don't know if you do.
No, I don't think so. I just think, just flat. Let him keep his bluffs in.
And then he does that. And this is a spot which I touched on very early in the video. This is a spot I just called here just for spoiler things, but I think it's a spot where I probably should be doing quite a lot of raising. And again, it's just one of those spots where I'm like, well, I'm 99% certain I have the best hand, but I'm almost as certain he isn't going to call with worse when we jam. So therefore, what is the point in jamming? It's another one of those spots where I'm like, yep, I win the hand, but there's no more value to be had. And again, I could be very wrong in those spots. These are the sort of spots I really want to discuss with people, because to me, there's no value in raising here, but I think we probably still should, even though there's no value in it.
Well, I mean, again, it's good for the red line when he folds.
Yes.
As opposed to just flatting and getting a blue line victory. But beyond vanity projects like that, I really don't know here. I really don't know. Is it? I mean, like, it's so hard to see what he's got here. That's going to have you beat, except for better 3x.
Yes. If you don't have it,
Um,
if he has ace queen and he's somehow got there, then fuck our lives, isn't it? I guess he can have like ace queen clubs, ace queen spades, ace queen hearts that might take the same line, but that's about it. Maybe he 3-bets them a decent amount pre. I agree. I don't think we're beat almost ever. But it's like, what if we do jam? Let's think about some worse hands that might call us, and that's when I start having an issue. What does King Jack do if we jam, for example?
Yeah, I mean, I know I may be contradicting myself from earlier, but I think here I don't. Yeah, you've got trips, but you've got like one of the worst fucking trips imaginable. And does Villain ever call worse than trips here? Um, he shouldn't. I don't think. And I don't think he should. Like I don't think he has boats like hardly ever. I mean, I suppose he might have pocket tens. I think you flatted pocket tens to me in the small blind the other day in an MTT, didn't you?
Probably.
Was it on the cash game?
But it could have been
Remember,
either. It sounds like something I would
I
do an awful lot.
yeah, I open button. You're in the small blind, and yeah, we get like a Jack 10-3 or something like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, you sort of check raise, pile it in, and I reluctantly call it off all the way with pocket queens, and I'm there thinking, fucking tens. How are you not 3-betting tens there, you fat nit bastard?
I am a fat nit bastard. That is the best read you will ever make in your life. It's fucking perfect. It's exactly what I am, which is why you shouldn't call when I check raise you, and why Waller shouldn't call in SPTs when I check raise him, because I'm a fat nit bastard. And that's all
Yeah.
there is to it.
So if Rufus is a fat nit bastard, Rufus can turn up with pocket tens here.
Yes. Rufus might be a fat nit bastard. We just don't know, do we? But yeah. So are we agreeing though that we probably shouldn't raise because there's not enough value in it?
Yeah, I think your hand is not strong enough to raise here.
Yeah, which we didn't, and it turns out he just had. I mean, I think his line's reasonable enough. I think the flop check raise is fine with some like backdoor equity. Then he turns his actual equity. I think his river bluff's a little bit ambitious, but I don't blame him for it. I think fair play to him. I mean, I get to that river with like stuff like pocket eights the same way, pocket sevens, things like that, which I'm probably going to fold to this line. So I think he's played it fine. I think I played it exceptionally because we played such a good hand pre-flop. And there we go. But that's definitely a fold pre, because I need to work on. I absolutely need to. I mean, it sounds ridiculous given I've been playing as long as I have. But I probably need to work on my button ranges. And a lot of the reason I'm tight on the button is because for years there's been that dynamic we talked about earlier where small blind and big blind 3-bets, in my opinion, were more prevalent 2 or 3 years ago than they are today. And now I think people are flattening a lot more at the big blind, especially than the 3-betting. Because back in the day we were 3x opening, 3.5x opening, and people were just 3-betting or folding versus 2.5x. There's a lot more flatting going on from both seats, I think, but especially from the big blind. So I just kind of, my response to being 3-bet a lot was I'm just not going to open as much, which is a shit response, but it's what us fat nit regs do. But now I'm using the 2.5x all the time. I just need to look at some charts and see what I should be opening more from the button, so I don't have to open the 3-7 suited, I guess. Like, there's a lot of time I'll have the button and I've got ace-2 offsuit and I've got 2 aggressive rings in the blinds. I'll just fold it because I just can't be asked dealing with them 3-betting me and getting one up on me and stuff like that. I mean, ace-2 off is just a slam dunk open into any 2 people. But if I think there's 2 aggressive rings in the blinds, I'll just be like, fuck it, can't be asked. And I won't do it, which leads me to opening this shit instead.
Reg?
Yep.
If this makes you feel better, I have access to the pre-flop ranges that were put together by some of the 500 Zoom wizards, which they use in game. They are not opening ace deuce off on the button.
Are they not? Right. That's okay. That's nice because I'm not either. I always feel like a total filthy nit bastard not doing it.
No, they're ace-4 off with a mixed frequency, and then ace-4, ace-5 all the way up.
Right. Okie dokie.
So ace-3 and ace deuce off are not opens.
Ah, well.
So don't feel so grubby. And yeah, certainly a 3-7 suited isn't either.
No, well, yeah. I know it isn't, but never mind. Yeah. I did it this time and it turned into an interesting hand, so fair dues. That's all the hands. I'm going to end the video now, but don't go away. I'm going to say goodbye. You can say goodbye to all my wonderful fans too. All 40 of them.
Oh God, it's weird. I sort of forgot that this might end up on YouTube.
If you don't want me to, I could just put it unlisted and just share it with the Discord. It's completely fine. It's I think we've done so much good. 2 hours 43 of what I think is going to be content people will enjoy. Feels a shame to share it with a small group, but if you don't want me to, I will just leave it unlisted and share it with the Discord.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind either way. I just feel slightly left out that mine is going to be the only ugly mug on the screen.
No, it's not. You're not on the screen.
Oh, no. Oh,
But
okay.
just all I've
Oh,
got, all I'm capturing is the table. Trust me, if
for
my
fuck's sake.
webcam was on, you'd be seeing my very milky white moobs right now, which wouldn't be nice for you or I. So no, there's no webcams going because two people on webcam for this long a video, it'd still be fucking rendering this time tomorrow. Um, so no, it's audio only. But if we ever do another one, if you want to do it so you can share it to your channel too, I'll get dressed and make sure we're both on webcam for it. Or if you
That's
ever
so,
wanted
no,
to do vice versa,
I'm just disappointed. I made a big effort with my hair
yeah,
today.
but I
Right?
noticed that, and you've had a shave too. And actually, I preferred it when you've got your more beard going on. You know, more beard's
Yeah,
better.
well, thank you very much. Basically, at least I need sort of a proper beard trimmer or something like that because I have equipment that's kind of like pretty much all or nothing. And so, yeah. Depends when you get me as to how beardy I'll be, but no, I do agree with you. Like, especially after I've just like locked it all off, I'm like, oh, I miss it.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
I prefer you without the baseball cap
thank you.
though. You look like less of a fucking leukemia victim with the baseball cap off. Anyways,
Oh,
we'll discuss after it whether you want it to go to YouTube at large or just. I'm fine with either. I think it'd be a shame
no,
not to
mate.
put it on proper YouTube because I think a lot of the people who like my stuff would really enjoy this. But if you don't want to, I'm completely fine not doing that.
Honestly, mate, seriously, I really don't mind at all.
Right,
Wherever you would like to
magic.
put
Well,
it,
I
it's
say
fine.
goodbye to you now, but don't hang up because I want to thank
I
you
won't.
afterwards. Okay, so we'll say bye,
Cool.
everyone. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.